All right. Well, we are live here in a Q&A. We're doing a little Q&A for those of you who bought Breaking Comedy's DNA, my book on how to break down the science of comedy. And we're here to answer any questions people have regarding comedy, comedy writing, mostly sort of like the science behind comedy, how to write a joke, what makes a joke work. Why do we even laugh, right? So most people don't even know why we laugh. So we are, hey, what's happening, Josh Belcher? Good to see you, man. Got all the way from Alabama here. Guy is very curious about what I what do I know? What happens after we die, right? So it's like, I don't know. Nobody really knows, right? People think they know, but we don't. So he asked me that once. I thought, what a curious question, right? Hey, Jerry got fired. Great. That's what a way to start, right? It's like normally when a comedian says, I got fired, it means you did something cool, right? Got fired and I have time. I'm thinking about starting stand-up comedy. Any tips for making stand-up in Germany? Oh, nice. Yeah, comedy is just developing thing here. Well, comedy's been around for a while in Germany. I was coaching a guy 10, 12 years ago who came out to the States from Germany. A couple of guys I know were out there doing some stuff in Germany. Where are you in Germany? It's a big country, right? So Canada's here. Nice to see you, Jeannie. But I know so much. Yeah, that that's funny. Yeah, that's a great question because I think it's a good topic to bring up for comedy, right? It's a great premise for that. So where are you in Germany? Like it's like there is a it's not certainly not as developed as it is in the United States, right? The United States being sort of like the pioneer for stand up, but it's like it's popping now in Russia. Well, I don't know if it's doing it now. It was doing it before the war. Um, it's um, it's like I've got a guy who's like keeps emailing me pictures of his open mic that he's having in Botswana in Africa. Um, I've got people all over the country, Chile. We got people coming in from all over the place. So I would say the best way to get started when you get fired and it's time to have when you have the time, one of the best things to do when you get fired is start some activity, right? Do something you love. Like and that's what one of the reasons I got into stand up too. I didn't want to work for the man. I wanted to work for me. So all that work I put in for the man, where's that go? It goes to them. But if I do all the work, write all the jokes, get going, put in all that time, that comes to me. The reward is back to me and my family, right? And to the audience, because you're giving a gift to the audience, you're providing entertainment. But there's no better, I don't think there's any better joy than performing and seeing the results in the audience and seeing the results in your own life. Certainly, stand up's one of the ways to do that. Now, I think the fundamental way to get started is to get your chops up, learn how to write jokes, right? Write those, get good at writing jokes. When you get good at writing jokes, then the world becomes your oyster. If you can sit down and write a joke on a topic, I like to tell my students, you can take any logical grouping of words and make it funny. That's what I like to tell them. Now, there are some groupings of words on my computer I haven't succeeded with yet, but the idea is when you see a premise, see an idea, don't run away from it because it's not already funny. It's your job as a comedian, job as a joke writer is not to find funny things necessarily. Like sometimes it's good to see funny things around, but your job is to take things and make them funny, right? You take ideas and make them funny, and we're going to show you how to do that. One way to do that. So I would say get those. Hey, it's Bob Kirk, one of my favorite people of all time. He's up there in Canada. Good to see you, Bob. So when you take an idea, a lot of times people sit there and I have this idea, I don't know how to make it funny. Here's the key. Go back to the first definition of a joke, which is which is taking two dissimilar ideas and converging them. So I think the best thing you can do is like take an idea, you have an idea, and you're like, okay, how do I make this funny? Like if I say, for example, the word, Joel Byers over at the Hot Breath Network, great guy. He's running a fun program over there that helps comedians get started. He really is into comedy. We met at the World Series of Comedy, and, so he has this little, exercise, what's called the Write 10 Club, where you take one word, you take that one word, and you write a joke on it, and a lot of people don't know how to do that. So, one of the things I like to do is I like to say, like to have students write 10 facts about you, 50 facts about you, put the facts down on the page. In one of my classes, the guy came back with the 50 facts, and the first fact was lazy, just one word. Right? I'm like, yeah, you're lazy. It's like he only wrote one word, not even a sentence. Right? So it's like, but how do you take that one word and turn it into funny? So one of the best tools you can use is there's something called the top 10 list. You've heard the top 10 list from David Letterman, maybe maybe not in Germany, but you have the top 10 list. Top 10 reasons you know you're lazy. This gets the brain kicking in to the idea of top 10 reasons you know you're lazy. But that's not the magic comes in where you add the second idea. So lazy at what? So if you say I'm lazy, that's one thing. But if you say I'm lazy at blank, I'm lazy at what would be the most, and then in what you have the 9 major psychological laughter triggers. There's a science behind this, right? When the brain laughs at certain stimuli, it doesn't just laugh at random stuff. We've seen guys up there doing 10 minutes at a mic, 5 minutes at a mic. Yeah, what mics are we going to? They're up there for 10 minutes unless they're running the light, right? Like they get up there for 5 minutes and nothing. Like they just rambling. There's nothing funny. They might have a premise, they might have an idea, they might be telling a story, but there's nothing funny, right? There's no trigger. Why? Because it's missing the 9 psychological laughter triggers, right? It's missing those things that make the brain tickle. So how do we do that? Is we have one way to do that to add a second idea, right? That second idea. Now you have 2 ideas converging. So if I say, and one of the laughter triggers is embarrassment. When you talk about embarrassing things, then it kicks in, right? So so if you take an idea, I'm lazy, and lazy at what? What's the most embarrassing thing to be lazy at? You can go through a litany of them. You can say like, brain surgery might be one, right? So brain surgery could be one. Lazy at brain surgery. It's like so if you're a lazy brain surgeon, what's the results, right? What are the results? If you're lazy at, if you're lazy at cooking, right? So it's like, I guess it's microwave time. If you're lazy at sex, that would be really something embarrassing to be lazy at, wouldn't it? So, so if you say, so if you have lazy sex, you write down everything about sex, everything about being lazy, and then you come up with some jokes. So I might say, if now to shape this into a joke with an audience, I might do something like, anybody great lovers out here? You great lovers? Yeah, you guys great lovers? Yeah, yeah. We got a couple of great lovers. That's good. Like then I might, if in crowd work, I might ask them what they do that makes them a great lover, right? So it's like I'm a lazy lover. So because remember, that's the comedic journey. The comedic journey is I'm not great. I'm lazy. So the underlying concept of all comedy is I'm just trying to get from point A to point B and encountering obstacles. If I say, "Oh, I'm a great lover," the audience hates me. But if I say I'm a lazy lover, that's funny because I can't seem to get it to work right, right? So that's a different story. If you're a lazy lover, it's like, I'm a lazy man, I'm a lazy lover. Like my favorite position is a nap. So now you have the joke that results from saying the setup, I'm a lazy lover. The audience is thinking, solve that puzzle. What do you mean by that? Show me how. What's the result? If I'm a lazy lover, then, so it's an if then statement. So those of you computer guys who are writing code, you should be good at this. So it's like, if I'm lazy at sex, how does that turn out? What does that make me? What would be, and in the sex column, you find positions, missionary doggy, it's like, so you can have a ton of like possibilities there. Does that make sense? So that's where you start right away. So anytime you have an idea and you say, I'm having a hard time making this funny, ask yourself, did I introduce the second idea yet? Is there a second idea I can apply to this? And normally, if you have that second idea, that's where you can come up with the funny. So you have here's another example, rain, right? So one time my one of the students came to me and said, "Hey man, the word of the day is rain." I don't even know where to start with that. Well, one thing I like to do is start with facts about rain. When somebody first says rain, what are we thinking? We're thinking precipitation, right? We're thinking it's falling out of the sky. So if you say rain, you could say, let's say rain. Let's see, rain's wet. Rain is rain, drizzle. Rain, go away. Come back another day. Raindrops keep falling on my head. So here's rain as in, well, we think of precipitation. What if we go another direction? Rain as in grab the reins, right? For the reign of holding the horse, the reign of the monarchy. You could have that, and you could have rain. A stripper named Rain. So if you take a stripper named Rain, now you have a whole different idea, not just a person, but a stripper. When you say stripper, you're thinking about, you can see the picture of the strip club, right? And it's like, one time I dated a stripper named Rain, right? So now you have stripper named Rain, and that's a whole different concept. So if you list everything rain, right? Weather forecasts, all that stuff, rain, snow, weather, snow. What happens in a strip club? Cocaine. Right. So I could say, one time I dated a stripper named Rain. She used to let me do coke off her ass. Like every date was like a weather report. We're going to have rain with a chance of snow. So now you have, every time I dated a stripper named Rain. My mother used to, every time I went out to go pick her up, my mother said, "Don't forget your galoshes. Don't forget your rubbers." So that could be funny. Right. So now once you have those two ideas converging, we're laughing at the coincidence that two ideas are actually, working together, that are two dissimilar ideas. We normally don't see those things together. So now you have a joke. So it's always in the two ideas. When you have a premise, you're not sure where to take it, add a second idea. And we'll get into one of the best ways to add a second idea. So let's see, we got like with another on his site, lazy at making love. That's good. Good, Bob. What kind of razor do you use? Head always looks silky smooth and free of razor bumps. You need an endorsement. That's good. That's good, Josh. I like that. That's just funny. It's not silky smooth. I didn't even skin the dome. I think there might be a filter on or something with this live stream. So it's like so it's not, and it's got a lot of bumps. It even has precancerous lesions on my head sometimes because I'm a redhead, right? Played soccer, so I'm a walking melanoma. Let's see. Any question? It's a good idea to take a story written course and do Toastmasters to improve your comedy and feel confident on stage, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I think Toastmasters is a great idea, right? It's not stand up, but it is learning to get on stage and tell a story. They teach you tactics to get on stage and tell a story. The only thing I would be careful with Toastmasters is Toastmasters has a very specific format that you get up in the way you tell stories, and it's almost unnatural. And stand up is a conversation. Stand up is that you get up and do stand up, and stand up. The most modern stand up is basically getting up there and talking to somebody like you're at a party, right? Just like we are doing right now. So if and so we speak in broken sentences, we interrupt ourselves, and oh man, I forgot to tell you about this, and then we go into this sort of like, you don't do that in Toastmasters. You just get up there and you start with a very specific way, and you don't change words. But there are a lot of people have progressed through Toastmasters and learned to blend the two. So you can really develop sort of a craft doing Toastmasters. Then you learn to plug in jokes. And without a doubt, I've coached a lot of people in Toastmasters. In fact, I got a big plaque on the wall from Toastmasters from consulting, basically a communication award at Toastmasters from helping people. I never took Toastmasters, never was in Toastmasters, never a member, but I did help people win. So, because what's interesting is There is an underlying human behavior aspect about comedy. It's impossible to dislike somebody who makes you laugh. So if you make somebody laugh, you can win Toastmasters competitions because they feel like they like you. Does that make sense? So if they don't feel like they like you, there's a chance that you might not, make them win, might not win, right? So those people who get humor, even if it's not too much and it's appropriate, you can get some good laughs and also get some votes. So I think that's a great, it's a good question. I would say Toastmasters is a great place to work out, get up there, and any place you can get up and talk to people and work out and get feedback. Open mics are hard, right? Because you get there and it's a bunch of comics, and those comics are what? What are they doing? They're in their phones. They're in their phones either texting or reading their stuff, getting ready to go up on stage, and maybe they're in their notebooks, right? But they're sitting there, they're not paying attention. If you can't read something on the phone and laugh at the jokes at the same time, it's impossible. The brain doesn't work that way. The brain works sequentially, not simultaneously. So when people get up there and do that, that's gonna stifle, right? And what happens? Comics also, when new comics, I would say, new comics are some of the most insecure people in the world because, sure, we get up on stage, but when we're in an open mic, we're afraid even if we laugh at somebody, it's going to take something away from our own funny, right? So we don't laugh at other comics. So you go to an open mic, but there is a way to gauge open mics. If you go to an open mic frequently enough, they get to know you. Once they get to know you, they'll start to laugh more at your jokes, right? So but if you're new and you do some good jokes, like solid jokes that get laughs, you might get a ha or a that's it, right? And so that's a keeper at an open mic. It's just a different gauge. So you can still use it to get comfortable on stage. And also, you want to learn to get comfortable not getting feedback so you can get that thicker skin. So I think that's, open mics are good, but I like to go to open mics. I also like to go to open mics that are not comedy open mics that are music open mics. Like a lot of times you'll have a music open mic, and then in a music open mic, you can basically ask them, "Hey, do you mind if a comedian gets up and does 5 minutes?" And they'll be like, "Great." Sometimes they'll go, "Oh, can you do 10? We have to reset. There's a new band coming in." Like if it's a band open mic or something, we need 10 minutes for that change of gear up on the stage. And so do 10 minutes, and then you're up there getting 10 minutes, and you get 10 minutes with a different crowd, right? So look around town for music open mics. And still, if you run into a problem, start your own open mic. You don't need somebody else. Go to one of these bars and grills and to see what they're doing on a Tuesday night and say, "Hey, what are your numbers on a Tuesday night? Would you be open to me bringing some bodies in here and doing something like a comedy open mic?" And that way you'll at least have some bodies in here. And then you have to remind everybody who comes to buy something, because that business owner is not doing that out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because they want to make a little extra money. They want to drum up business. So if you help them drum up business by reminding your comics to buy a soda, buy a beer, buy a burger, something, right? Buy something. Comedians, they complain about bringer shows, but comedians are the reasons bringer shows exist, because comedians never put any money on the bar or never bought anything. So they were just had a space where guys, at a mic, and they're just taking up this space, but they're not buying anything. So it's not doing any good for the bars. And then they start running bringer shows because comedians weren't supporting the endeavor, right? You got to give to get, right? And most comics just want to get. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Give me do you have a spot? Can I work a spot? Can I have a guest set? Can I have this? What are you doing for the booker? What are you doing for the club? What are you giving before you get? It's reciprocity, right? You give, you get. But most comedians don't think that way. Most comedians, when they start out, are not good business people. They have to learn that. So it's like when comics learn how to how to really create a networking opportunity, build a relationship with somebody, that's when you start succeeding better. Here's let's see. Whenever a heckler says your proctologist must love you because you're such a massive asshole. Um, so what is that? What is that? It was whenever I get a heckler, I say you're proct. Oh, whenever I get a heckler, Luca says, write some more like that. Write some more like that. Hey, dude. Hey, why don't you bring all your friends next time so I can embarrass you the way you did your mother when she popped you out of her pussy? Right? Hey, we're lucky. What's your name, dude? Ricky. Ricky. We're actually blessed to have Ricky here because if his mother wasn't too drunk to find a coat hanger, he would have been buried in a casket the size of a saxophone case. Right? So get some more like that. Those are good. If you get a heckler, now you got to be sure that the heckler is doing something to hurt, right? Because if you're going to blast him just for talking, 99% of the time, hecklers heckle because they want to participate. That's it. They want to be included, right? They think they had something to add, right? So it's like when they do that, and they say something, be sure they're trying to be negative, because if they're not negative and you blast them with that, right? That's not necessarily good. Another thing you can do, right? So another thing you can do with a heckler is you listen to what they say. Most of us don't even listen to what they say, and so sometimes they'll heckle, and the audience is dark sometimes, right? You can't see the audience. All of a sudden, somebody heckles something, you say something to them, and the light comes on later on that they're in a wheelchair. Right? They were just trying to express themselves, and you just blasted somebody who's disabled. Right? So how's that make you look? So you got to really use care in dealing with hecklers, because 99% of the time they're not looking to hurt, they're looking to help. And they like? Sometimes they heckle you because they like you. I mean, who do we heckle the worst in our lives? It's the people we love, right? So the people who are closest to us, right? Those are the guys we'll blast, right? So in this case, be careful. Also, you can listen. There's a technique. It's called a mirrored phrase, right? So if you take a mirrored phrase, so you listen to what somebody says. So one time I was doing a show, and it was super interesting because it was a full room. There was a couple of good comics coming up that night. A couple of them have some name, and so the MC goes up, doesn't do anything to warm up that audience. Basically, just tries to do his material. Doesn't do anything to get them to participate, to build community. Right? He just gets up there and just like says a little something about me. Doesn't really say anything to bring them in. Right? So to make them feel like they're a part of something, which is key, very key. If you'll tell the difference between a good show and a bad show, and then you look back and you go, oh wow, the good show is I actually talked to them. They responded. The bad show, I actually just did my jokes, and they didn't really feel a connection. So I was up there on stage after these other good comics got up there, and this audience just ice cold. I said, "You guys are really cold tonight, man. This is a cold audience." It's like, is the room temperature bad? What's going on? Right? What are you guys here for? It's comedy, right? What else are you here for? What are you here for? And then this guy sitting up front said, "What are you here for, sir?" And he says, "I'm pretending to look at a comedian." So when he said that, he's in the front. The people back in the back of the room didn't hear him, right? Because it's impossible. His sound is coming towards me. They're in the back. So I said, "Oh my God, you hear what this guy said?" It's like, "Why don't you just stab me in the back and twist it, bro?" It's like, you just said, this guy said, "I'm pretending to look at a comedian," right? And then what I'm going to do is take his words and repeat them, and then add my own ending. So all I said is like, he said he's pretending to look at a comedian. That's what a coincidence, dude, because I'm looking at you thinking I'm pretending to look at an asshole. I'm just kidding, bro. I'm not pretending. So where were we? Now, in that case, you've basically taken their words and used them against them. And here's something interesting that happens in the brain. When you repeat words that have just been said, that brain loves patterns. So it automatically expects the same ending as the first time. So all you have to do is switch the ending. So when they get locked in, and what is comedy? What is a joke? A joke is where you have two dissimilar ideas. Yes, that's one definition. But joke is where you surprise the audience. is surprise them with what they think you're going to say or they think you're going to do. So in that case, you have a second ending, right? So they have drawn an expectation for the ending, and now they expect a second ending. Remember Andrew Dice Clay, right? He had limericks, right? Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet. What the fuck is a tuffet? Right? And so when the audience is already thinking, eating her curds and whey, you add a second ending. So that's called a cliche reformation, right? You have that cliche, something everybody knows the ending to, you add your own second ending. If at first you don't succeed, quit. There's no use killing yourself over it, right? So if you then get up on stage and you repeat a line, it's just as powerful. They expect the same ending, so that's one way to be up there and deal with a heckler. Learn to take a heckler, listen to their material, listen to what they say, then take that material and build a joke on the spot. That'll get you better faster, but also have some in your arsenal, have some in your kit, right? Have some in your hip pocket. So it's like it's a good idea to take a story writing course. Yes, definitely. Stories are great. I would definitely do that. I heard Pete Lee talk about why using sketch methods to build bits. If this is true, what else is true? Yes, definitely. We talk about if this is true, what else is true all the time? That's the two dissimilar ideas, right? If you're dating a stripper named Rain, what else is true? If her name is Rain, then every date's like a weather report. If her name is Rain and she's let you do coke off her ass, every date is now a weather report. Now, if that's true, what else could be true, right? So it's like without a doubt, if this is true, what else is true? Can 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 take a joke to the next level, right? Because you can actually every time you have a tag or a punchline, and that punchline then introduces new material and you joke off of that new idea. If this is true, what else could be true? That's where act outs come from too, right? So it's like if I say I'm Irish and Native American, that's my lineage, Irish and Native American, two ideas converging, right? So so I'm Irish and Native American. You know what that means? I pretty much have VIP seats waiting for me at any AA meeting, quite frankly. And then now, if that's true, what else is true? The act out. If I go to that meeting, Proctor's like, "Hey, Running Bear O'Reilly, we have a chair for you in the front row." My name wasn't even Running Bear O'Reilly; it was Running Beer O'Reilly. Okay, so now you have. If this is true, now what else is true? If my name was Running Beer O'Reilly, not Running Bear O'Reilly, if I was Running Beer O'Reilly, what beer would I be? Now that's something else. What else is true? Now I can list all the beers, come up with something that's more, what would I make? What could make fun of me? And then and add the joke there. So yeah, that's absolutely true, right? So that's if what else is true, and it's like Jay Rainville. I'm surprised you're asking that question. I talk about that shit all the time. If this is true, what else is true? Right. So that's one way to write. Analyze your material. Every new piece of information gives you something to extend off of. So theoretically, you can write one joke forever. Right. So it's like, so if I say Running Beer O'Reilly, I come up with a beer that would be funny. What would be a good beer to add to that? Like what beer? Amstel Light. Let me see. What are the names of beers? Give me names of beers, domestic and foreign, right? Domestic. Like what would be a good funny name for me? Let's see. Names of beers. Let's just go in there and see what I've got here. Names of beers. And like, what would be funny? Maybe if funny if if I named me a female or something like that, right? So it's like, let's see. Oh, there's actually a dad bod lager. That would be it, right? So that would be funny. And in the moment, what would be? Let's see. Hold on. So there is a let's see, Rolling Rock. Samuel Adams. Uh, let's see, Samuel Adams could be Dos Equis could be funny. There's Victoria Beer, Pacifico, Heineken, Stella, Hogarden. Hogarden, that could be it. Hogarden could be a name. Um, isn't there something like St. Pauli girl or something like that? If I said that, right, made fun of myself. So if I was like Dogfish Head, that's a funny name. I could be like New Belgium. That's Fat Tire. So yeah, there's a New Belgium makes a beer called Fat Tire. I'm Spare Tire, right? That would be kind of so if I was running beer O'Reilly, what else is true? Grab my side, and go, yeah. It's like you've heard there's a beer called Fat Tire. Anybody ever hear that? It's by New Belgium brew house. So like, they would call me Spare Tire. And now you have a joke, right, from that. So that's if this is true, what else is true? That's basically how that concept works. It's a great little concept, a great way to think, because now you're extending the bits. And here's a really important thing to remember. When you're doing comedy, a lot of times, I need more jokes. And we're trying to get to that 30 minutes. We're trying to get to that hour of material. There's no reason why you can't get there. It's just you're lacking technique, right? Sometimes, because sometimes I tell people just bulldoze, renovate, take those existing jokes, go in there and add a ballroom, right? So basically go in there and add something by identifying what else is true. And now you can expand that bit. Now you start to hit it from all different angles, right? Using the maxim of the 5 W's: who, what, where, why, when, and how, right? So it's like you go in and say, okay, who's in this? Who else could be involved in this? What else would happen if this happened? How does this work like this? Jim Gaffigan loves to use the how. He breaks it down to its most basic concepts. And that's where sometimes the biggest joke is, because sometimes we think of things too cleverly. But if we break shit down, we go, oh, it's right there. Right. So, I like to, my inspiration in comedy was George Carlin. So I like to take these big concepts that people just accept for true. And I like to get in there and peel back a layer and look for the unassailable truth. And then they go, I don't know what to do with that. Right. So, it's a little edgy, a little scary sometimes to some people, a little dangerous. Like I do, I talk about being an atheist. I don't believe in, organized religion. I believe in love. I think love is the most profound and powerful force in the universe. And so, but if you believe in that, you don't need a religion to guide you. There are good things with religion. I'd say that, certainly the community that it builds with people. You build, relationships, networks, and you build, so there's a big community in religion. But myself, I don't trust some of these religions, especially you got a mega church, there's a mega church that has, 60,000 congregants. And it's like, if you take the money away, that church doesn't exist. So it's like, what is the church? Is it really faith or is it really dollar bills? So it's like, let's make it rain up in this bitch. Right. And it's like, so you're in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy. Damn, what nice ass. And don't judge me, because like in the Bible, there are 83 mentions of the word ass in the Bible. And that's just the New Testament. There's more ass in the Bible than a Friday night at Spearmint Rhino. So you can have fun with that. Now we've juxtaposed those two concepts. Right. So I like to say when people like, say something about a religion or something, like I went to the dry cleaners and this lady was like, she goes, she was looking up my account and she said my ex-wife's name. And I said, no, we're divorced. And she says, oh, I'm sorry about that. And she said, she goes, well, in our family, we stay with the partner that God chose for us. And I said, oh, okay. You mean that that guy, the same guy that wiped out the entire planet? That's the guy you trust? That guy. Okay, yeah, I don't know if your choices are good in the trust department, that you're going to trust that guy to give you the right answer, right? Just wiped out the entire planet because he was pissed off at something. That's some road rage. It's like so, and it's like, and I go, have you read the Bible? And then she's like, what? I go, have you read the Bible? Yeah. Who kills nobody in the Bible? Satan. Who kills everybody? God. When they said wolf in a sheep's clothing, I think they were projecting. So that scares people, right? And so at a certain point, you got to realize that George Carlin said, "Don't be afraid to walk the audience. Don't be afraid to walk everybody in the room." Right? You tell them concepts that are slightly dangerous. Like Anthony Jeselnik says, I think a joke has to be a little dangerous, has to have some friction or some edge to it. That's now that's his for the audience he's targeting. But if you're doing comedy for a function, I've got to be able to do comedy for, say, a Mormon group or a Catholic audience. My that material is going to change. I did a gig for Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic organization, philanthropic organization. We were in the basement of a Catholic church. I had to do material for that church, right? So I remember doing something like that. I actually attended Catholic school for like a 3-day thing. And I had ADD once, you know, and that got a big laugh in that room because the nuns were strict, right? So how much one-on-one coaching does that cost? How much does one-on-one coaching cost? Well, if you have to ask, it's $200 an hour. That's how much. That's what I charge, $200 an hour. And I do have discounts on large commitment packs. I heard Pete Lee. Yeah, Pete Lee's. That's a good idea. If this is true, what else is true? Anytime you have that's a great little concept to work off of. What kind of razor do you see? Your head always looks so silky smooth. That's good. Like you already said that. There's got to write me an endorsement, Josh. What would that endorsement sound like? Let's see. It's like with another person. That's good. I think that's good. My favorite position is REM. Nice, Jay. Yeah, REM. That's good. What's your take on the Kill Tony format? Well, I think that's good, but it's limiting, right? Because he's looking for one style of joke, Kill Tone, Tony Hinchcliffe. He's looking for that edge or darkness. I've had a couple of students win Kill Tony, which is exciting to hear because it does give tremendous exposure. It's like the modern day of Last Comic Standing in a way, but you only have like a minute, right? So you can maybe get out 2 or 3 punchlines. And so Sir Winston Pickles was one of my sort of indirectly student. He was following me on YouTube, and he'd ask questions, and I'd help him via the comments. And he said, "Man, your tips have really helped me narrow down what I need to do." And so he's doing well, and it was from the Kill Tony. He blew up from the Kill Tony. So it's like Buffy Metler she's another comedian. She just won on the roast battle there and then she went along. I think they like her at Kill Tony too. There's a couple of other things happening there. So I think for the exposure, it's good, but don't get locked into that one way of doing stand up. That's what, you have some of those. That's a great place to introduce your edgy jokes and then make sure you have some good jokes. And it's like what Hinchcliffe is kind of like he likes the Anthony Jeselnik style jokes. He likes edgy, dark. One thing that I haven't watched his special yet. I should have watched it the other day, but I'll watch it this week. But I heard I heard mixed reviews on it. We'll see. But I think, yeah, Kill Tony can work. Get up there. It's great exposure, right? I don't like the format of sitting there hoping you're going to get called out of a basket, because you know how those things work. They go through those things and they make it, okay, we got, so and so, we're going to make sure we call him up, right? He's been here for 3 weeks in a row, or we're going to make sure we call him up. We like them. We know this guy will do well, because somewhere in there, if they don't know anybody, it's all, it could go south, right? Especially now that they're doing a show, they got to make sure they have somebody up there who's good. And so they definitely, those things couple of things are pre-selected, but then they do the raffle version. But that's a waste of time for me. As a comedian, I used to go to the mics that, you sign up, you knew you're getting on, you get off, you can go to another mic, rather than sitting here for 3.5 hours hoping to get up. right? That's a complete waste of my time. And so when I can apply it towards other things. Now, you can some of that time is spent like maybe networking with other comics, but still I'm there to work on material. And so it's not to be cold, it's just to like be efficient, right? Get there, see if I can do 2 mics, 3 mics in a night. When I was in New York, when I first was in New York for, for 2 years, living there for 2 years, I was right in the valley in the village. So I was able to hit sometimes 4, maybe 5 mics in a night starting at about 6 p.m. So that was always great to be able to do that. And so and then it's getting up a couple times a night is great. 2 different shows a night is awesome. But I would say that, that's my take on the Kill Tony format. It's good. It gives you some value. Definitely gives you tremendous exposure. Don't get locked into that style of comedy. You wanna have be able to be versatile, but, learn how to write those jokes that are edgy. Singing in the rain, rainy mood. Nice. Thanks, Abe. Hey, Jerry. Let's see. It's Urshad. Always watch your videos from Afghanistan. Great. Thanks, man. All the way from Afghanistan. Wow. It's like that's incredible. So we're reaching the world right there. Like I always look a little Bruce Willis-ish. Yeah. Yippee ki yay, motherfucker! Right? So I'm so lazy. It's like I only smack one side of her booty. Hot, I know. Like, but even that, that I do have even that I do half-assed. Yeah. So take it further. Go. Yeah. So lazy at sex when even when I masturbate, I'm like, it's just not worth it. So that could be a nice way to take it even further. That's good. I'm so lazy at sex. Some lazy lover. Today, I only date women who won't sleep with me. Yes, good, Cliff. That's really good. I like that. That's such a funny idea. It's like I only date women that won't sleep with me. Um, that's a good lazy. Join a storytelling group. Yeah, that's good too, Audrey. Definitely. A storytelling group helps you to get up there and take that story and recognize those opportunities in the story, right? So the opportunities in the story to give you like a surprise, create a reverse, do some wordplay. If you're telling a story, for example, like you're just telling a story. The other night I came home from a gig, and I remember it was the night before my wife was having her C-section. I came home from a gig, and she's sitting on the couch, and I'm like, "How you feeling, babe?" And she's like, "I'm having some gas pains." And I was like, well, so gas pains. So what do you do with that, right? I'm having some gas pains. So what do you do with that joke? I'm having some gas pains. So what could you do with that? And avoid the fart joke. So, because everybody's gonna go there, right? So you wanna avoid the fart, joke. So if she says, "I'm having gas pains," what do you wanna do with that? Um, so it's like, so let's see what you can come up with, like on that. Is anybody popping up some jokes off of that one? Let's see. The price at the pump is killing me. Nice, there you go. Yeah, yeah, so it's like, that's good. Having gas pains. Yeah, it's over $4 a gallon. Good, Luca. Yeah, so good. Right, that's good. So it's like if she's so right in the middle of a story, that wordplay pops up, and then you continue. It's she's having some gas pains. I'm like, well, everybody is. It's like $5 a gallon, right? Here in LA, it's $6 a gallon. It's over $6 a gallon. $7 a gallon if you're getting $8 a gallon if you're getting diesel, right? So it's like I just filled up my F-150. So yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, there you go. So it's like gas pains. Yeah. Yeah, sure. I am too. I just filled up my F-150. So that's good. So, and I like the specificity on the model of the Ford. It's the most popular Ford F-150. So it's like that'll get Taco Bell is the only place you can get gas for under $6. Good, Josh. And it's like, any ideas and tips for finding a comedy buddy? Any recommendations? Yeah, get into some of these Zoom rooms. There's there's probably more than 2 dozen Zoom rooms out there where people are doing. Did Buffy do stunts for Stretch? No. So it's like New York is crazy. I love going there. Yeah. So Zoom rooms. Find a Zoom room. Like there's some Zoom open mics. That's the fastest way you get on there. You can meet people and form a relationship online. Find somebody who you think knows what they're doing. You want to learn from each other's skill sets, and then you bounce ideas. I think Comedy Buddy is always a great idea. You encourage each other to get up there and do stuff. So Price at the Pump is killing me. That's good. Nice. All right. Good. Nice job. So you guys kind of got that idea. Now you're in a story. You're just telling the story. She introduced the idea. I'm having some gas pains, so I make a joke. Yeah, it's like $5 a gallon, right? Then I'm making a sandwich, and then I realized that, well, wait a second. I've had 4 kids. She has this is her first, right? Because I fuck like George Bush goes to war. I don't have an exit strategy. Because now I have 5 kids from 3 different moms. But that it's like woohoo. But then I said to her, "Are those gas pains intermittent or are they consistent?" And she says, I haven't really thought about it. She goes, "I think they're intermittent." I said, "Well, let's go in my office and time them," because I had the computer in there and there's actually an app to time contractions, right? So, and besides, my computer's in there. I can check my fantasy scores. So see how we have that? We added computer. It's like, what else can the computer do? Check your fantasy scores. Fantasy would be incongruous to her maybe having contractions. And so that's silly. That's funny. And it's like, and then I could go in once I have that fantasy scores. I'm talking about football fantasy. I can say I was never really good at that stuff, that fantasy stuff. My brother, he would always model his teams after like the Green Bay Packers. My son would always model his teams after like the New England Patriots. I modeled my team after Victoria's Secret. And those bitches have no ground game. It's always pass. Yeah, they look one look at me, they're like pass, right? So now you're just building ideas from one idea to the next. Every time I add an idea, let's go to the office. Why? Because we can time the contractions. Where? On the computer. What else could you do on the computer? I can check my fantasy scores, right? And that's frivolous. It's really against the whole, direction you're going, which is we're focused on one thing. The gas pains could be contractions, right? And now you're taking it a different direction. So, in that case, you could see how you're bouncing off the ideas. If this is true, what else is true? We're on the computer. What else could be true? What can we do on the computer? So you see how you've added second ideas to the storytelling. That's why storytelling is a great way to start jokes. Laughter is about creating surprise. You create surprise with expectation. You need expectation in order for surprise to occur. Low expectation. So when you're telling a story, where's the expectation for there to be a joke? Drops way down. If you get up to the audience and go, "Hey, here's another joke," your expectation is up here for you to do something funny. But if you drop it way down by saying, just telling a story, telling it straight, telling it serious, and then boom, clicking in that surprise, that's when it becomes funny. And then and that's why Bill Burr likes to add that angst to his comedy. He's always upset. He's always frustrated. It's always like he's he's got to get this out before he bursts, right? It adds that energy to it. So this guy, Hip Hop Forever, says, "I got a joke idea. I don't think it'll hit. I need rewarding. I babysit for my neighbor every weekend. She always cries when I leave because then she has to look after the baby." I like it, dude. What's wrong with that? That's a good joke. You got to slow down, right? You got to let them enjoy that. Like, I babysit for my neighbor every weekend. She always cries when I leave, right? Because then she has to look after the baby, right? That's good. So it's like, so that could be good too. Or babysit could be her. You actually call her baby, right? It's not, you could play that one too. I don't think it's, and then you just clarify that, she's the laziest woman I know, but she got big titties. So it's like you'd have fun with that, right? And then you're making it frivolous, right? So my fantasy scores are on Pornhub. Nice. Yeah, that's good. Once what's so funny, because once I said, "What else do we do on the computer?" I was like, somebody's going to come up with a porn joke. And there you did, man. Good. Pornhub. Gas pains is funny because I'm a masochist. Call me propane. Nice. There you go, man. Mandy's here. Hey, Mandy. Good to see you. So any pointers on writing good one-liners? What are the main things to keep in mind when writing them? It's like I'm struggling in this area. Well, the main things to keep in mind are one, you want to create a surprise, right? So you want to, there's a couple of different ways to do this. Now, one-liners, a lot of one-liners use puns, right? So you'll hear Jimmy Carr, he likes to use puns. He always loves reverses. And so another guy who's good at it is Stuart Francis. And it's just a way of phrasing the line at the beginning so that you're conflating a lot of ideas in the first part of that joke, right? So that the audience then sees the expectation, sees the setup. So, and one-liner doesn't have to just be a one-liner. It could be like a short two-sentence joke. So if you set up something which is normally a fact, like that's the key. So if I say something like, I'm Irish and Native American, that's clearly a nice setup. It has two ideas. Now it's easy to write a joke on that. Or if I could say, for example, here's something to really think about. Wellington Flores 6427. I always love that 6427. It's like it took 6,426 tries to find a Wellington Flores number that you could put on there. So in this case, if you say, if you take the audience and create a surprise with that, you can just sort of do a setup. Like, for example, one of the things I want you to do is like you write facts, right? Write facts and ask, what does the audience see? What do they see? So if I say, because you got to understand, this is how the brain works. When I say something that's ambiguous, sometimes when we say it, we don't think it's ambiguous, right? So we say something, the audience will fill in the pictures. So in this case, if I say, I have a 9-year-old girl, what do you see? What's the audience assuming? What are they assuming? They're assuming probably daughter, right? I have a 9-year-old girl. And so they picture me with my daughter, maybe holding her hand, taking her to school, right? It's like, so if you say I have a 9-year-old girl, now you just have to pull the rug out, right? I have a 9-year-old girl in my van, and that changes the entire nature of what the scenario is, right? So in that case, let the audience fill in that gap. Like if I say I have the fingers of a concert pianist, and they're in a Ziploc bag in my freezer. So you have that. I have the eyes of an eagle, the ears of a poet, and the fingers of a concert pianist. I call them appetizers, right? So right away, you have the audience will make an assumption as to what that means, right? So you can say something and the audience will draw a firm conclusion of what that means, right? So once you can, that's one of the keys to writing one-liners is to ask yourself what the audience sees. Like one of my favorite things is to say a phrase, and sometimes you could choose words, right? Certain words. I think of my boss as a father figure. If you give me a picture of the boss, what do you see? Somebody says from Epstein Island. So I think of my boss as a father figure. What do you see? Like most people will see, if you give me an APB on the boss, like if you were writing a wanted poster, how would you describe the boss? Somebody did a joke, cookies and kids are similar. They're both fun to make, but if you eat more than 12, you'll be sick. That's funny. That's good. So it's like, so if you, let's see. So in Hip Hop Forever at my local farm, we're doing a competition of who can feed a cow the most edibles. The stakes have never been higher. So what do you mean by that when you say the stakes have never been higher? Oh, I see. It's wordplay. You're doubling up the joke here, right? Stakes have never been higher. That's good. I liked it. Little punny, but I don't think the kids would get it. I think it's like who can feed the cow the most edibles. because if you're talking to kids and you add edibles, kids are like, huh, what? So it's like the um, it's like, how, what if you could do a pun like this, you can take it a different way. Like in my local farm, we're doing a competition, who can feed a cow the most edibles, right? Um, and so you ever try to feed a cow edibles? It's dangerous. Those are some high stakes, right? That's one way you could take it more of and put it in a little more conversational joke rather than just a third person type of joke. It's like here it's more prosaic. It's written as like prose, but if you put it in a sort of like a person talking, it makes it different. So now here's the thing with puns. Jimmy Carr even said this: if you have one pun, you get a chuckle. If you have two, you might get a laugh. If you have three stacked, you can get an applause. So don't just stop at one, triple it up, right? So I think that's good. So daughter, yes, daughter. Like if I say I have a 9-year-old girl, people are thinking daughter, and then you just pull that rug out. Like you can say my boss is a father figure, right? So okay, now Abe, here's like if we're looking to do a surprise joke, like a reverse, like an Anthony Jeselnik type joke. And it's like my boss is a father figure. I think of my boss as a father figure, never paid for having me. So that's now you're making it like your father, right? So you're tying in two ideas, right? You're tying it into your father. But if they draw a picture, right? So that's one way to do a joke, right? Yeah, definitely. You're taking the two ideas, boss, father figure. You got two ideas converging. So good job. And balloons, right? So, but if you say my boss, I think of my boss as a father figure, they're immediately getting a picture, right? And they draw that picture, and what do they see? Do they see a man or a woman? Odds are they see a man because you said father figure. So you've already prompted their brain to create a specific image. So what if I flip it? I didn't say it was a man. I just said father figure. So I said, yeah, I think of my boss as a father figure. That just kind of pisses her off, right? Now you have, and I try to save the reveal for the gender as far to the end as possible. So now you that's a different type of laugh, isn't it? Right. So I think that sometimes that crisp reverse laugh is the best laugh you can get because you trick the audience and they go, "Oh, I didn't even see that." Right. So that's kind of fun to do. So that's a fun place to go. Um, Father figure gives me good advice, guides me. So that's a father figure, right? So, but your father, and so, but if they see a man, pull that rug out, make it a woman. So that's another way, like working on what image they see, right? So if they see an image, and like we probably a lot of people automatically assume when you say father figure, it's a man. Like if you say, I think if I my wife considers herself to be a bit of a wine connoisseur, so it's my ex-wife now. So my ex-wife considered herself to be a bit of a wine connoisseur. Like, she said, I'm a bit of a wine connoisseur. And now what does the audience see? Right? They see the wife. Like two things they think about right away are the who's there and where are they. So the 5 elements of story or character, theme, setting, plot, conflict. The two biggest things they think about are character and setting, and balloons again. That's the Apple animation, I think. It does that. So when you hold up 2 fingers. If you do this, they give you a thumbs up, I think. There it is. So if when I say wine connoisseur, they're gonna make this picture. Because the word connoisseur is there, they're gonna see the wife, and the wife is gonna be sophisticated. She's gonna dress well. She's gonna be in a nice place. She's gonna the wine is usually red, right? It's a stem glass. It's out of a bottle, right? So all these pictures that are coming to the audience, and you just said my wife considers herself to be a bit of a wine connoisseur. And then she's sophisticated, she's smart, right? So all these things, they made these conclusions. So you can take each one of those and shatter them in the follow-up, in the punchline. My wife considers herself to be a bit of a wine connoisseur. Like she can't tell you about all the wines in the world, but she could school a bitch in all the wines that come out of a box, right? Like she's like, she's the smartest chick I ever met at that trailer park. Like her sister went all the way to a PhD at Stanford. My wife went all the way the first night I met her. So now you can all the things that are in that line and all the assumptions the audience has made, you can then turn around and just pop each one of those assumptions, right? And just like shatter that stuff. Um, because there you go. Nice. Hip Hop Forever says, I think my boss is a father figure because the facial hair on that chick. And you saved the reveal for the ending. Nice job. Like, so it's like um playing off the opposite of what the audience is thinking. Yes, that's exactly right. Shattering their images, right? So that's one way to create those one and two liners. You know, a lot of times we say stuff. If you just said, I saw a sign that said, watch for children. What's the automatical assumption of what the intended meaning of that phrase is? Watch for children. That means, there's kids playing here. So what's a way to play that? So watch for children. If we took it to the comedic framework of that, right? How can we take that and make it play? Watch for children, and it's like, what could you switch that to? You can go right to the vivid truth about that, right? So watch for children would be like, uh, Mandy does some wordplay, more like a wine connoisseur. So if you say watch for children, seems like a fair trade. Yes, right. So you took it to the uh, Mark Normand punch, right? So he does that. Seems like a fair trade. Now that's an old gag. Watch for children, right? They bite. Good. So watch for children. It's like, or you could say like on the same thing with the fair trade. You could watch for children. It's like, I have a Rolex. Can I get two? I have a Rolex. Can I get twins? Right? You could say something like that, right? So it'd be like, so in that case, that kind of works. Um, so you have watch for children, alarm clocks for teenagers. Nice, yeah. I Apple Watches for teenagers or Apple Watches for adults. So that's good. So now you're looking at the simple truth of what the line says. Like really, like you can take all kinds of stuff and look at the alternate meanings that are available. In a bottle of Listerine, says right there on that bottle, um, fresher breath gives you fresher breath. Let's see, fresher breath and whiter teeth than brushing alone. Fresher breath and whiter teeth than brushing alone. And what is that? What is the intended meaning of that label? Fresher breath than brushing alone. So, so what if you have that? What is in that statement? Brushing alone. And you could say fresher breath than brushing alone. And it's like, now you could say like, watch for children. We're encouraging the pedophiles now. Good. I like that. Good, Lucas. That's good. Like, yeah, it's like watch. I saw a sign that said watch for children. Watch for children. What are we encouraging the pedophiles now? That's good. And it's so contemporary, right? I don't know. They made Rolexes that small. That's good, Mandy. So sadly, I have to revise. Have a good day, everyone. Good to see you, Hip Hop Forever. So you see what I'm saying? Like once you have that, you look at those words, look at them differently. It's like fresher breath and whiter teeth and brushing alone. I said, who needs fresh breath if you're alone? And that's a different way of interpreting that line. So it's a way of looking at a line and taking a different direction. Let's see what else. What other questions we have here? Any advice on winning stand-up competitions determined by an audience vote? I'm in two now, and before Comedy Insiders take over evaluations, the opening rounds are determined by audience vote. Yeah, bring people. That's how those things are set up. Those things are set up just for, unless your jokes are so good, and real crisp jokes, then those things are determined by how many people you bring. It's a nice little scam they set up for these competitions. I don't want to say scam, but it's like so it encourages comics to bring people, right? So now you bring people that are paying to get in and eating and buying drinks, right? So it's like if you bring a whole bunch of people, they're going to reward you. I say scam sometimes because at a particular comedy club, they gave one of my students a discount code, right? So like $5 tickets or something like that. So she bought 50 of them and gave them to her friends, and they all came to the show. But the place was mad because they said, "We don't want you to give away 50 of the discount coupons." Well, you didn't say that. You just gave her the link. You didn't think she was gonna invite 50 people. So she bought 50 of them, invited her friends, right? And so they all come down. She clearly won, right? But they gave her second place because this other guy who's okay had a bunch of people there with the full price tickets. That's when you know it's a scam, right? So that's very scammy, you know? So it's like in those types of things, it's just the people that are there. Sometimes, like when those back in the day when I first got introduced to this concept, and I first started comedy, I was a pretty good comedy writer, good jokes, right? Good solid laughs. And I got up on stage, it was at the Ice House, and it was one of those bringer competitions. I didn't know what it was. I brought two people, right? And there was a bunch of, but it had a pretty full crowd, and I won. And the guy who ran it, I didn't know anything about this. I was so new, right, to the scene. But I had been doing like sometimes some corporate stuff, for chambers of commerce and things like that. So I wasn't new to performing. I was new to this stand-up concept. So I had solid jokes. So I get up there and hit with solid jokes. And he was like so giddy that I won. He said, "You only brought two people and you won. How did that happen?" He said, "That's really good, Jerry." And all that stuff because I didn't know. What do you mean? I thought an audience is an audience, right? No, these people came here to see that particular person. Oh, how do you know that? I said, because and then he was explaining how the whole thing worked. I go, oh, I didn't know. So, but it was fun to win knowing that those weren't my people. So maybe the jokes were good enough for them to go, yeah, my guy was good, but man, that guy had some good jokes because I had already had, in a way I was cheating, I guess, because I had already had some experience outside the club situation. I was already doing some corporate work, because I was, that's how the gigs came to me, because I went a different way to get into comedy than most people do. And it's like, and I'll teach you that way at another time because it's like it's a fun way to do it. You can do it simultaneously as doing the open mics, but you don't have to rely on the open mics and the whole club, work your way up through the club. That takes forever, right? Why do that when you could build outside of that? We've also found another way to build outside of that, haven't we? Where like with the phones, with people putting out their clips on YouTube, doing shorts, doing crowd work clips, right? Building up fan base that way. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter. Show business is two words, and the business is in all caps. So if you take the business part of it and you build this fan base on YouTube and you start showing up with people every time you put out a tweet or something, you get a bunch of people that show up, then it doesn't matter. Eventually they're going to realize if you're not funny, eventually they'll realize you're not funny. But if you're funny and you can still sustain that audience, then you can build up a nice career in a short period of time, you know. So Matt Rife has done a good job at that. I'm not a huge fan of Matt Rife's stand-up, but he's done a great job with his crowd work and building up that audience without a doubt. Let's see. Any other questions here I can answer? Um, oh, that's the Philagalos, a book full of ancient Greek one-liners. That's a really good tip, Mandy. Thanks for putting that in there. So good one-liners. That's I would say your puns, your and think about it this way: when somebody imposes something on you, that's storytelling, right? Something is imposed on the hero by an outside source. So if you take that, you can then now the pressure is on. So like if you write a top 10 joke, top 10 reasons somebody is dumb. Top 10 reasons somebody is dumb. Like she was so dumb, and it's a so joke, the raw form, but you will now change this joke. She was so dumb that she thought capitalism was texting in uppercase, right? So if I take that joke and I put it into a story, right? Now what's changed is the nature of the joke. So I'm going to mask that joke in a story, right? So if I say, my wife and I had a glass of wine and she said to me, you've never told me about any of your exes. Tell me about one of your exes. And I was like, oh, this is a trap. So I said, I said, one time I dated a girl, she wasn't that bright. Like she thought capitalism was texting in uppercase. And my wife said, that mustn't have lasted very long. I said, 6 years. She was hot. Right. So now it talks about my like shallowness, right? So in a sense, you take that one joke that's a basic so joke, very cliche. Some people might even use the word hack, which I think is an inappropriate word for creative environment because we can turn that joke into something funny by couching it in a story. And it now drops in because it's now unexpected. Plus, the pressure is on you, right? Tell me about one of your exes, something imposed on you by an outside force. Now the pressure's on to say something and she said one of the exes. So I choose to say, "Oh, she wasn't that bright." And then, because I didn't want to say, "Oh, yeah," didn't want to open with she was hot. But, and I say that, and then people laugh at the wordplay because it's contained in the story and the pressure's high. They don't, so the expectation for a joke drops down. All of that comes into play when you put it in a story, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's a different way to take a simple joke by using the raw form of comedy. I was so this, she was so fat, she was so dumb, I was so, I learned how to write those jokes when a girl broke up with me way back in the day and she had kind of a bigger nose. So I wrote jokes about it. Her nose was so big jokes, right? And then I had to couch those in a story and it changes the nature of it. So I would say one-liners can be, top 10 lists is a great way to get the punchlines. Let's see who else has something here. Any other questions? So you guys are having some good jokes. Anybody have a joke that they wanted punched up or anything like that? Um, Anybody have any questions on winning? So stand-up competitions, yeah, that audience, bring people, and then once you bring people, you can you take it to the next level. Join competitions that don't rely on you bringing people, right? Like San Francisco comedy competition, Seattle comedy competition, the Boston comedy competition. A lot of people got famous through Boston. Kevin Hart, Bill Burr, Patrice O'Neill. A lot of people came up through there. So it's like find the competitions that don't rely on bringer shows, right? They're not really competitions. They're who brought the most people shows. So it's like, and once you gain an audience, the booker can't say no because they're in show business. They want to fill those seats, right? So it's uh, like father figure, like Pope Leo, but less holy. Let's see. Yeah. So Wi-Fi says it. Pack the house, dude. So it's like so it's, fill it with your people. Like my boss, like father figure. We got some of those firefighters are the only guys who can confidently ask a girl out of her burning house. Just Jeff Bezos, 62 to 45. So it's like, firefighters are the only guys who can confidently ask a girl out. And it's like her burning house. And it's like, you can carry a girl out of the burning house, right? So I would make that joke tighter, all right there, or give it some more coincidence. Firefighters, only guys who can confidently ask a girl out. I don't think they need to ask girls out. They already have their own sirens. That could be a pun, right? What do I think about Norm Macdonald? I like Norm Macdonald. One of the greatest things I learned about Norm Macdonald is how to deal with a heckler. Watch that video, Norm Macdonald, the heckler. You don't get to watch it, but you get to hear it, right? It's an audio recording. It's on YouTube. And basically he interviews the heckler and he turns the guy from "you suck" to "I love you, Norm." So it's a really great indication of how to do that. And Norm's a guy who is like very interesting because I've seen Norm do a full 48 minutes, 50 minutes. And it got boring. And I like Norm Macdonald, but it got boring. But I think Norm was really great in those short segments, like those interview segments and things like that, because he'd go into this long, shaggy dog joke, right? And it's like, but Norm built up a whole following with that type of thing. So I mean, and I think Norm was his own worst enemy because Norm was unreliable. He wouldn't show up to gigs. He built that reputation, even though comics loved him. He was just not that motivated. Whatever it was, he's sort of like basically self-destructed his own career. But then, so I think Norm could have been, could have been a superstar. He pretty much was. I mean, he was certainly at the level people know his name. They yell out Norm. So, but I think he just like, um, he was good in short bouts, but other than that, he wasn't really a long he couldn't really sustain a long audience, right, doing his thing. So, but I like Norm Macdonald. It's a totally different style than a lot of comics. So let's see. Watch a lot of people doing Watch for Children. Let's roll back down. What else do we have? How do you brush alone? That's good. Alone, like a business. Like, please review my joke. I did. Yeah. So the fire thing was it the firefighter joke, right? Yeah, the firefighter joke was, firefighters are the only guys who can confidently ask a girl out. I would revise firefighters. It's like, um, so I think firefighters, would they always be at, kinda always be in a, kinda always be at odds with a hot chick? Like, as a firefighter, if she's hot, they're always in a s you're always scrapping, right? So it like could be like gloves are off. That kind of thing could be fun too, using the wordplay there. So girl out of her burning house, it doesn't really work. It's like one thing about being a firefighter is like all your calls are inbound, right? 911, what's your emergency? It's like it's a good way to take a girl out during an emergency. Like if you on short notice. It's like they can now instead of ask a girl out, what if we change the wording? Take a girl out instead of ask a girl out. I think that's where the joke is right there. Like firefighters are the only guys who can confidently take a girl out of her burning house. Now it's funnier instead of ask. They don't ask a girl out. Nobody's asking, hey, you want to come out of the house? The place is on fire, right? Nobody's asking. They're taking, right? They're throwing them over their shoulder and doing the fireman's carry out of the house. So I think change the word to take a girl out. And it's like they're the only guys who can quickly take a girl out of her burning house. Now it's funny. One word. That's a great example of how one word difference makes all the difference in the joke, isn't it? So good. I hope that helped, man. And thanks for following up with the can you review my joke? Because I didn't see it at first. So and I get distracted. I got to do more of these lives so I can calm down. So they're so exciting. I love to do these things and talk to people about comedy. If it's helpful, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. They had let's see. Here's one. Let's see. Fresher breath than brushing alone. Have you read the fine print? Depends on their interest rates. Nice, Mandy. Good. I like that. It depends on the interest rates. Walked into a restaurant to use their bathroom. They had a sign that said employees must wash hands. Since I don't work there, I respected their rule and I didn't get involved. Yes, totally works. I love the ending. Didn't get involved. That's the key, man. That's a good joke. I like that joke. I was at you don't have to go and walk into a restaurant to use their bathroom. I was no, I think, no, it works kind of because you're not even there to eat, right? Kind of thing. It's like walked into a restaurant just to use their bathroom. There's a sign in there that said employees must wash hands. Since I don't work there, I respected their rule and didn't get involved. That's good. Nice. Good joke. I saw a sign that said watch for children. An hour later, those fucks didn't do a damn thing. And an hour later, those fucks still didn't do a damn thing. I waited 30 minutes, but no employer. That's good. Good. All right. So said employees must wash hands. Employee came, so I did it myself. Good. Now you guys are at least trying to look at the hidden meaning within a sign that we just take for granted. What if the sign says straws and utensils upon request? What do you do with that sign? Straws and utensils upon request. So it's like straws and utensils. Yeah, you're welcome, Wappy. So it's straws and utensils upon request. So what I ask myself is, where do we see the sign? What's the picture? Where are we? People probably see fast food, right? So then change it to an opposite of expected place, the least place you would expect to see that sign, right? So you could, like, you see signs all the time, and I love working with signs because signs are they're imposed on you, right? And it's usually written by an authority, gives us a chance to make fun of the authority, and that makes the audience feel good because we want to feel superior to the system, to the corporations and stuff like that. So I was in Amsterdam recently. Can you all believe there's a hot dog cart outside the Anne Frank house? Seems disrespectful that they didn't call it Anne's Franks. That's so dumb. It's funny. It's one of those like dumb, funny jokes. You know what you can't stop laughing at it, right? So dumb as it is, it might still get you to laugh. And you could play with the fact that it's dumb. It's like you even say, see, we can make you laugh at because what happens? The expectation. We're talking about Anne Frank. Oh, right. And then you go, seems disrespectful. They didn't call it Anne's Franks. It's like, but it's funny dumb. I love it because it's like it's one of those ones you giggle at when you're drinking beer. Pontius Pilate pack had me chimping out more than the NBA Finals game. The Pontius Pilate pack. I'm missing something here with that. What does that mean? What are you saying? Like, had you chimping out more than the NBA Finals game? I'm not sure what that means. Made some natural pest control spray. My friend said it wouldn't work. Every person I've sprayed walked away. I'd say it works. Yeah, so that's good. I like that. Pest control, right? Pest, it doesn't it's implied that we mean bugs, right? So instead you change it to people. People can be pests, right? You can say like even if you said I made some natural pest control spray, yeah, some essential oils, right? That sort of thing. People roll their eyes at you right away, right? You're like, I made natural pest control. My friend said that'll never work, and every person I sprayed, walked away. I'd say it works. I think so. You can even ask yourself those guys who spray those perfumes, right, or the colognes in front of the department stores, like those people that spray those. It's like the way people walk away from them. You wonder if they're spraying cologne or pest control. So it's like they'd be great at working in pest control because that's funny. I like the concept of pest control is really good. So go to the pest control company. He got rid of my neighbor. So that could be a funny way to take that. That's a good one-liner right there, right? So it's a good premise to work with because it does so clearly implies bugs and it goes a different direction. Punch up this joke. I have a hunter friend that shot a deer with arthritic shoulder. He said the deer meat was good. The arthritic shoulder was delicious. So it's like the other way is like the Groucho Marx. I have a hunter friend that shot a deer with an arthritic shoulder. Well, it must have made it easy to shoot. It couldn't really run away, right? It's like so if he had an arthritic shoulder, that would be one of his legs, right? And it's kind of stiff, It's like he knew because how did he know he had an arthritic shoulder? Well, the deer had a limp, right? So it's like that could be funny too. Like big horns and a limp. I have a hunter friend that shot a deer with an arthritic shoulder. He said, now you're changing because we think the shooter has the arthritic shoulder, right? So it's like they have a hunter friend that shot a deer with an arthritic shoulder. He said the deer meat was good. It's like the arthritic shoulder was kind of tough. So that's good. So that's a good way to switch that joke, to switch the meaning of the joke. Now, sometimes the audience is so locked in to, in this case, the hunter having the arthritic shoulder, that they take a while to get that the deer had the arthritic shoulder, right? So that so what if you change it to arthritic leg? Because they don't really think of a deer having a shoulder. They think of a deer having a leg, though, or a thigh. So in that case, I might change it to I have a hunter friend that shot a deer with he had a arthritic leg. He said, the deer meat was good, but the arthritic leg was kind of tough. So you get something like that could be in there. Maybe change that a little bit, Cliff. Like, did you watch Mark Norman's Page to Stage part two? Part two? Wait, did he had a part two? I haven't seen that one yet. I like Mark Norman. What's interesting about Mark Norman, he's big on the converging two ideas, wordplay and the compare and contrast. And analogies. He loves those. So it's like, and I was like, huh, this guy sounds he's got some good craft. But I looked at the list of all the books that who people I've sold the books to. Mark Norman's on the list. So he got a book, and so you see a lot of that he's coming out. I'd like to take a look at part two because I do like Mark Norman. I like Mark Norman because he's like he's writing the jokes, but the jokes flow, right? And he's a fun guy. He's got that. Acknowledges. I think he's on the spectrum, so it makes us root for him. So I like his demeanor. I like his approach. All those guys, like Dan Soder, Joe List. What's his name? Sam. What the hell is that? Hey, how come I can't think of his name right now? But Sam Morrell, he's good. So all those guys kind of hang out together. Sam and Mark do that podcast together. They've really built up that fan base. So there's another way to build up a fan base and then have people show up at your shows is those podcasts. Those still work. People go, oh, that's well crowded. Look, if you had 500 people watching your podcast, that would be good. Like we only have 36 eyeballs here on this. That's low. Normally we have like 99, 100, sometimes 150. So, but usually after I do them consistently for a little while. So I think maybe if I do some more, we'll see how high we can raise those numbers up, right? So so it's like so in that case, you can have something like that, like though expressly ask the girl out. Something about setting the house on fire to expressly ask the girl out. That's a good idea, right? And then that could be the change, right? We expect that the firemen showed up to a fire that was there, right? Rather than it's like, so he's like, man, do you see what Chuck did? He asked that girl out. He's like, who do you think started the fire? Right? That kind of a switch. That could be good. I'll have to watch the Page to Stage part two. Hand washing is a Steve Martin bit. Yeah, but you know what? So many other things are too, right? So somebody said to me when it's hand washing, Steve Martin owns hand washing bits. It's like that's bullshit. Everybody experiences that. Why is that only got to be a Steve Martin, right? So if you can have a completely different take on it, that's a different viewpoint. So if it's the same joke, there's where you have to be worried about it. But I remember back in the day, doing a joke and somebody says Eddie Murphy does that joke. And I said, it turned out he did a similar joke, but it wasn't my joke. And my joke came uniquely from my experience, right? So I heard a thing on the radio about a case study for erectile dysfunction medicine called Cialis. And it's like, and it said, if you're 40, 50, 60 years old, or it's like 40, 50, 60 years old, and you're experiencing ED, be called to be a part of the study. Financial payment might be involved. And so I thought to myself, well, when you 50, 40, 50, 60 years old, suddenly you can't get a boner. Remember when we were in 5th and 6th grade, we'd get boners for no reason at all. And it's like, and I do the whole bit. And the teacher's like, Jerry, she would always notice if I had a boner. She would like, Jerry, would you like to come to the board and solve the problem? And I say, well, I couldn't lie. I'd be, no, it's too hard, But Eddie Murphy, turns out, did a joke. It was like similar. Would you like to come to the board and solve the problem? I'll take the F. Thank you very much. And I'm like, my joke's better, right? Because I said too hard. And I know it's arrogant to say my joke's better than Eddie Murphy, but it was. That's the clear thing, right? So it's like, and so one of my friends who was a head writer on a show said, if the joke's inherently yours, keep it. If you were inspired by this other comic,
drop it, because you could always write more, right? So, but if more than 3 people come up to you and say, that was so-and-so's joke, just drop it and write another joke, right? It's very simple, right? You don't want the distraction. You just want to write more jokes. Jokes are a dime a dozen. When you start learning how to apply the craft to write jokes, then you could really pick it up. Somebody says, I tried to setting my house on fire to get a date with a firefighter. I always get burned. A little punny, but still you're on the right track. So, let's see. Turtle cost extra. Don't know what that's in reference to. Let's see. Straws and utensils upon request. Weird sign in the abortion clinic. Nice, Luca. Excellent. Good little spin. Wet wipes for the rest of you. Well, say you would not believe how high I was when I wrote that Anne Frank hot dog joke. That's funny. What's up, Jerry? Checking in from my vacay in Greece. Hey, Keith, what's happening? Good to see you, man. So do you know do you know any Indian comics? Well, sure, Russell Peters, right? But there's a lot of Indian comics out there. Coming to let's see, top of my head. I know a gal in India. Yeah, she's doing some good stuff out there. She was in the States. Now she's back out in India. So I've got a couple of friends that are in that I work with that are in Toronto that are Indian. So yeah, that's cool. So I've got jokes about an adopted Black mother with a long list of medical conditions. How do I describe her conditions without making the audience feel too sad, right? So I would like adopted Black mother. So, like, with a lot of medical conditions. So then how do I describe her conditions without making the audience feel sad? Give them like, give them like every condition is like sort of thing. She's got more conditions than than signing up for YouTube, right? So you can say something like that, right? And then now he gets a chuckle, and you can get into each of, you don't want to describe her conditions necessarily. I mean, in the States, that's a HIPAA violation. So it's like, but you can still like talk about each one and exaggerate it, right? She's got OCD, CPD, ADD, ADHD. So it's like she doesn't have conditions. She has acronyms. You do something like that could be fun. Now you're taking it to a totally unrelated idea. That could work, right? So that's good. So I've got the jokes about it, but the energy seems to dip too much. Then maybe it's also in your energy. If you make it frivolous, right? She's like, so and you make fun of that kind of the thing that's going on. That makes it fun, right? So it's like and it's hard to say without the specifics, right? There's not much to work with there. If you have more, what are those ailments? What are these conditions? And how do they affect you? Like I had my mom had dementia. She had early onset dementia, right? So, which was a boon for me on my birthdays, because she would give me like a birthday card with $100 bill in it. And she'd be like, Jerry, did I give you your card? I'd be like, no. Like if she was having a bad day, I could net about $1,000. So in that case, you're taking the sad and making it frivolous. So there could be a joke there. Come in. Hang on one second. Oh, you're leaving? Yeah. Okay, come here, give me a hug. I love you.
You need to. I think they'll come back Thursday.
Okay. We'll see you soon. See you soon. Does Nibbles need to be fed?
No, I gave her food.
Okay, cool. Love you.
Love you too.
Okay, sorry about that. Life goes while you're still trying to do YouTube live. Now the dog's going to come in and start barking, right? So, I think, get specific in each one of those ailments and find which each one of those ailments can be. Sometimes with each ailment, you then define what the ailment means, right? And then take that and what else could that be if it has these side effects? That could be where the joke comes in. So do I know Benny Feldman? He does one-liners. So I know of Benny Feldman, but I never met him. So yeah, one-liners are fun. So I'd like to watch him. I'll have to write that down. Benny Feldman. See if he's got some stuff out there. One-liners are a lot of fun and they're great practice. It's like the old philosophers used to write aphorisms, which were nice, short, tight sayings that had profound meanings. But the tendency was the idea was they were short, and they would practice writing aphorisms. Same thing as practicing your one-liners, right? So I think I'll look at them. It's at Feldfrog. Feldfrog. That's a fun little handle. So good. I'll take a look, man. Thanks for that recommendation. So suggest stand-up comedy technicalities related books that really helps. Well, I would say Breaking Comedy's DNA, my book, breaks down sort of the science and the tech and the mechanics of comedy. That's one. Another one that would be is a good one is actually Joe Toplin's book, Writing for Late Night TV. So Joe Toplin, it's a really good book, and he breaks down sort of the mechanics of writing, and it's like, learning it's more focused on current events jokes, not how the brain works necessarily. So those really the two books that I would recommend dealing with like the mechanics of joke writing. There's let's see, Comedy Writing Step by Step by Gene Parrott is good. So because a lot of the books out there tap into theory, or just theories and kind of like vague notions. It's funny because there's a surprise, but how do you get to the surprise? Let's break that down further, right? So there's a technique, like, for example, one of my mentors, Gene Parrott, who wrote Comedy Writing Step by Step, he said, Jerry, sometimes a joke just has a rhythm. You have to accept that the rhythm is there. There's a rhythm, in the joke. Because of the rhythm makes the joke funny. And I'll be like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense, because a rhythm is made up of notes. You have a dotted eighth note, a 16th is, a quarter note. All those things make up rhythms. So the notes, what are the notes? If we could break it down even further. So to find out how the rhythm makes it work, then I was reading a book called The Science of Storytelling. And the science of storytelling was talking about creating vivid imagery. And you create vivid imagery by using 3 descriptors. Right? If you use 3 descriptors, suddenly you start seeing the vivid imagery. And the same person that said it had just as a rhythm also said the better the imagery, the better the laugh. So how can I describe that imagery? Sometimes saying it without saying it, but doing it in 3 descriptors. So it would go something like this. My daughter asked me how to tell a joke. I said, let's see, how do you tell an 11-year-old how to tell a joke? Here's what you do. You tell me I look old without saying, Dad, you look old. And she said, Dad, you don't look old. You look like Father Time did karate on your face. So those are the 3 descriptors: Father Time, karate, face. So what does that break down to? Father Time, a person, recognizable person, celebrity name, a branded name, person of lore, right? So Father Time did karate, action on your face, setting. So now you have character, action, setting, and it's vivid. Most comedians would say something in 2s, but you say, looks like your face had karate on it, right? That's 2s, right? Father Time did karate on your face. That's 3. So that's 3 descriptors. You could even say something like, he was so ugly, his face could drop a donkey at 300 yards. What does that even mean? It doesn't make sense because of the rhythm. The audience will chuckle at least because the rhythm's there. Does that make sense? So if you learn to use that 3 descriptors line, that's breaking it down to the mechanics of what makes that line work. Watch Greg Giraldo do roasts, right? He's a Kathy, watch the videos because Greg is dead. But so if you do watch his videos of him doing the roasts, he really uses the 3 descriptors mechanism a lot in his roasts. Hey, Kathy Griffin, you look like Ronald McDonald fucked Lucille Ball's corpse and threw it down the stairs. So that's major. So that's like 4 descriptors. But he says, doesn't even say like Lucille Ball. He says Lucille Ball's corpse. He gets very vivid in the description, and then threw it down the stairs. So now he has celebrity, Ronald McDonald, celebrity. We'll say celebrity, but branded it, person, right? A famous person, famous idea. So then you had person, action, and then threw it down the stairs. So that's the 3rd descriptor right there. So a 4th descriptor. So it's very vivid. It's the imagery. Like Bill Burr has a joke when he talks about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He goes, how many of you could move to Austria, learn the language, become famous for lifting weights, marry into their royalty, become a movie star, run for public office, and win? How many lifetimes would it take? I'm on my 3rd attempt at Rosetta Stone Spanish. So he's doing a compare and contrast, all of Arnold's achievements compared to his achievements. And then he also brightens that up by saying, I'm not just on my 3rd attempt at Spanish. I'm on my 3rd attempt at Rosetta Stone Spanish. And you instantly get that image of the yellow box with the font there, black font, Rosetta Stone Spanish. And we laugh because we're familiar with that image. We see the image. So the rhythm of it too is great. Those learning the 3 descriptors is great for roast battles because people can't come back because it's you hit them with 3 descriptors. Remember, most comics think in 2s. Like they don't take that extra time to write that vivid action or that adverb or adjective. So think about that in as far as like generating jokes mechanically. You're not going to find that in any book because most people don't know that, right? Also, why the brain works. Why can we get a laugh out of somebody? Because when you say something, they've already made a decision what it means. They have no choice, and now you go, you hit that, you hit them with what the alternate meaning can mean. So it's just like why it's going to work because the science of how the brain operates, right? Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, Wellington. So it's always nice to have people here and they're actually getting value out of what I do. So yeah, I would say those books are good. You might even like look at let's see what else is out there that I would recommend as far as like joke writing. I'd say there's one out there where it's like a lot of books are good. Like Dan O'Shannon wrote a book. Dan O'Shannon was the creator of Modern Family. He's got a good book out there on kind of what's funny, how something's funny. Straws and utensils, but otherwise you eat with your feet. Like shit, I should have had said by now, but thanks. Been following you for a while. It's been loads of. Oh, thanks, Lucas. Yeah, I've seen you in the lives, man. It's good to have you here. Trump sending more boats to open up the Strait of Hormuz is like eating cheese to open your bowels. Nice analogy. Yes, good one. See, that's good. Now, one thing about that is you took like a political situation, right? Oh, tension. Everybody creates tension. Then you added eating cheese to open your bowels. Like that idea, connecting those 2 completely dissimilar ideas and showing how they're similar. Good work on that analogy. Analogies are your best friends, right? Straws and utensils upon request. This house isn't a home. It's a prison. Not sure what you mean by that. I think you're trying to joke the joke there. So straws and utensils. I saw a sign that said straws and utensils upon request. This house isn't a home. It's a prison. I'm not sure where the house isn't a home came from. Because where would you have that sign at a home, at a house? I don't think so. At a prison, maybe, but I'm not sure where that came from. So it's almost like came out of left field. I'm not sure what you're trying to say with that joke. And a lot of times when the joke isn't working, just ask yourself, what am I trying to say with the joke? And sometimes just simply say what you're trying to say with the joke. And then that could be the punchline. Because one of my weaknesses is I try to be too clever with the jokes, right? So I have to simplify. And that's always been a battle of mine. So if you just like simplify what you're trying to say with a joke, I'm trying to say that, and is it plausible? Would a sign that says straws and utensils upon request be in a house? It's like, and it's like, and it's in a house, calling a house a prison. I'm not sure what's going on there. There's a lot of stuff going on there that you haven't shared with us yet. You have it in your head, but you haven't revealed it to the audience, so we can't connect to the ideas. Why does nobody know how does humor actually work? What makes something funny? You missed it. You got here late. You got here late, right? So let's go back and like, well, so one theory, like a theory explains every joke. Jokes are different, so it's not going to be one theory. There's going to be some different theories. The one major theory is this: why do we laugh as human beings? Why do we laugh? We laugh because we were surprised. Now, if we go back to beginning the evolution of mankind, right? The evolution of mankind. You're standing there, and a boulder falls. You know, a 2-ton boulder just falls right next to you, right? Just missing you. Wha-bam! Right? You're a caveman, right? And it doesn't kill you, but it comes that close, right? So it's benign. It didn't hurt you, right? So it's like it falls right next to you. What happens? What happens is like, fuck, oh shit, I almost died. Oh, so you don't die. So it's benign. So it's a threat, a surprise that's benign. And so that's one of the main theories. So surprise creating laughter is one of the reasons we laugh. Something unexpected happens, something that's a twist that doesn't hurt. So it's benign, right? So like if you're racist and you say, here, there's a floating garbage in the ocean, it's called Puerto Rico. If you're racist, you're going to laugh at that joke. If you feel it's punching down and it hurts, you're not going to laugh at that joke. So there's also another theory involved. So there's not, it's not just one theory. There's a complex involvement of multiple theories. There's another theory called the benign violation theory. So they did this with the movie Hot Tub Time Machine, where in that there's a scene where the catheter comes out of the guy's dick and the pee squirts all over everybody. Now, those people that were in the first 5 rows went, ugh. Those people that were farther back laughed because they were removed from that violation, right? So it wasn't so in their face. So there's a couple of different theories that are involved in comedy. So comedy is like the brain expects certain things. You shatter that expectation. It doesn't hurt, so we laugh at it. It's benign. So that's, if you understand that theory, then that's really the theory that gets you started. Then you realize there's some other theories involved and you work those in as you go along. But hitting you with all of that stuff at once, it's going to be too overwhelming. So you start very simple. You start with wordplay. You start with like, when you get asked a question, did you find everything you were looking for? Right? What do they mean by everything? Everything you were shopping for. Well, you have to turn that around. Comedians think of everything as everything, right? The meaning of life, a soulmate. So your dad, right? A long lost parent or child or a relationship or mutual love, it's like, so it's like you could do something like that. Hey, Alan, good to see you, man. Alan Roberts is here. He's in the house. So really good to see you, Robert. Alan Roberts, 2 first names. That sucks, right? So, so it's not, nobody knows how humor actually works. It's, there are lots of theories out there. So, I think if you work with the theory like that surprise theory, you see it all the time, right? And one, it's figuring it out. So the brain makes a decision as what something means, and you pull the rug out from under it. Like, teaching my daughter how to tie her shoes. You're going to make a picture of how old my daughter is. So if I say, teach my daughter how to tie her shoes, which is weird because she's 17, that's going to get a chuckle at least because they saw something, you switched it on them, it didn't hurt them. They're going to laugh at that, right? So remember, it goes way back to the primal evolution of mankind. And it's like we're so locked. That's why we're locked into story, because we survive through gossip and story. We heard that the other tribe is using, fire. Oh shit! You mean I don't have to get food poisoning anymore? I can cook my fish, So that's kind of how humor works. So there's some other theories out there that are available, but and of course the 9 psychological laughter triggers. And those are basically surprise, superiority, embarrassment, incongruity, release, recognition, configuration, ambivalence, coincidence, let's see what else. No, I think those are 9. I hit 9 on that one. Yeah. All right. So we can go through each one of those and show you how each one works, right? So, and you'll get it, and then you start to get it. So those are the 9 psychological laughter triggers. They're not going anywhere. They're hardwired into our DNA. Those are the reasons we laugh. And it's like you can combine some of those. It doesn't have to be one. Like you laugh at simple recognition. Kevin Hart loves to do recognition jokes. You know, he describes a situation and we go, oh shit, I've seen that before. Right. And we laugh at that. He does this video. He does one where he's being chased by an ostrich. He turns sideways and the ostrich is running alongside of us and goes, you know, and the ostrich just looking like this while he's running was it to me to see him do that on stage. It looked like an ostrich. So I laughed because how can Kevin Hart, who's a person, be an ostrich at that moment, in that instant? And so that's why we also love impressions. You know, how does Shane Gillis do such a perfect Trump? I'm looking at Shane Gillis. I'm hearing Donald Trump so perfectly. Why is that? You know, how is that possible? That's 2 things that are true that can't be true at the same time, but seemingly are. So that's a paradox. And the brain has to go through multiple regions of the brain to solve a paradox. And so there's tension created, and it has to release that tension, and it releases it because it's benign with laughter. So that's another theory. So lots of theories that are out there, and they're all scientifically based in psychology, right? So, and once you kind of understand them, then you can play with that audience, right? You can mess around with the audience. The audience loves to feel superior. A lot of times if you do a joke and the audience isn't laughing, ask yourself, does that make the audience feel better or does that make them feel smaller, right? So that's why we don't punch down, we punch up, right? If we can make fun of the government, the system, the banks, the cops, the IRS, mother-in-laws, fathers-in-law, exes who cheated on us, they feel like they're rooting for you. So they feel like they're winning too. That's another theory. It's like when you're building a story, the story should have an antagonist and a protagonist in there, right? So the audience feels like they're rooting for somebody. And if they're rooting for you to win, when they laugh, they don't only laugh at the joke, they laugh because they won because they already emotionally committed to you, right? So if I do a joke said my ex who cheated on me, I said, you know, I think working out at the weight bench at the gym was a lot like having sex with my ex who cheated on me. I always had to wipe it down first, and I know a lot of guys were there before me, right? So I even messed that joke, but I should say, you know, having sex with my ex who cheated on me was a lot like working out on the weight bench at the gym because I want that thing I'm now going to modify to be as close to that part of the sentence as possible. So if I say my ex who cheated, having sex with my ex who cheated on me was a lot like working out on the weight bench at the gym. I always had to wipe it down first. And I know a lot of guys were there before me. That's going to get a laugh because that weight bench, a lot of guys were there before me, matches my ex who cheated on me. So, plus she's the ex who cheated on you, right? The audience automatically makes a conclusion, makes a decision. Who's the antagonist? Who's the protagonist? And they root for you to get that person back, the person who cheated on you. So if they're emotionally involved, they're not, you don't only win, they win too. So see how that works? So that's another theory that of the science of comedy. So, but a lot of stuff you won't find in any of those books, right? Because people don't, comedy is the most unexplored art form out of all the art forms. So I was going to McDonald's drive-through and the window said, there was a sign that said Braille menus upon request. 100% true story. I'm trying to find a punch for it. It isn't too wordy. So, that's McDonald's drive-through window sign that said Braille menus upon request. And so you're at the drive-through, and there's a sign that said, so it's like, I guess so. It's no reason it shouldn't be true. In the state of California, you can drive if you're legally blind. So think about that. Now, when you really break that down, you go, okay, that makes sense. Like people always used to say, why is there Braille at the drive-through ATM? Right? And it's like, well, because legally blind people can drive if they can pass a practical exam. They might not be able to see the screen, so that's why they have Braille. So same thing with McDonald's. They can navigate that car through into the drive-through fine. They can't read the menu, right? They can't read the screen. So that's a different type of blindness, right? So it's that kind of say, but if they're blind, so it's like they're in a drive-through, they give a Braille menus upon request. I think what they need is they need a white cane for my car, right? Or something like that. It can be like, what else is like, you make a list that deals with everything McDonald's. Maybe find something in that McDonald's list that may relate to being blind, like some tie-in, and make everything deal with everything being blind. What is, like, is it darkness? Is it foggy vision? Is it macular degeneration? So that could sound like McDonald's, right? Macular, degeneration. So so there might be a joke there somewhere, right? So it's like also the names of some of the foods. Maybe they can relate to something dealing with the eye, like, he so he ordered something like McDonald's. You can do a joke about LASIK or something like that, or corrective surgery, something in there like that could be a joke. It's like, what would be a blind person's favorite food at McDonald's? I'm just kidding. Nobody would eat it. No smart person would eat at McDonald's. You could have something like so it's like a McDonald's drive-through, and wonder there was a sign that said Braille menus upon request. That's good. So does when he orders his food, does he have to feel the food to make sure he got his order right? Because that could be a possible joke there, right? So I think there could be something. You give me time with that. I'll probably come up with something. I would probably do a listing technique to get to it, though. I dated a firefighter. The sex wasn't that hot, but afterwards it burned when I peed. Apparently, that's not how you're supposed to put out fires. Yeah, and I don't think he cleaned his hose. So that was good, Mandy. I like that. Nice job. Good joke. Somebody wrote there Indian comics. That's Audrey. Good to see you, Audrey. I'm bad at asking out girls before I get to ask them out. They ask me to get out of their bedroom. Sounds kind of rapey, right? That could be that, but it's still possible there. I'm bad at asking girls out. Before I get to ask them out, they ask me to get out. Get out of what? Like, it's like that's get out of their DMs, get out of their space, get out of their bedroom, get out of their. So I think you're doing some wordplay here, but take that further. We got to see what we're seeing. If the vision we're having is still too ambiguous, we might short circuit the laugh. They're still not sure what they're laughing at. Zarna says, "Good to see you." Zarna Garg said, "Audrey, right here, writes Zarna Garg says a New York-based Indian immigrant. Yes, I've seen Zarna. Yeah, known for her hilarious takes on modern family life. Yes, good. How do you make a joke about Seymour Johnson clean? I don't want to make a joke about Seymour Johnson. Seymour Johnson? Is that like you're doing a joke on Seymour Dick, like a larger dick, Seymour Johnson? Seymour Johnson? Or is that a person? I'm not sure who it is. I'll have to clarify that. Seymour Johnson. Like it sounds like a person's got an inbox filled with dick pics. So I have trouble meeting women. Men go through the grinder so much easier. You mean Grinder the app? So men go through the grinder so much easier. Is that so? Is that what you mean by that, Lucas? I like that. I have trouble meeting women. Men go through grinder so much easier. That's good, yeah, because they do, right? So it's like my gay friend said, the difference between men dating women and men dating men. Men get cut to the chase a lot faster. So it's like there could be like to see that. Joaquin, good to see you, man. Joaquin is blind. Do you have an answer for the McDonald's thing? Like, so he could have one there. Good to see you, man. He has more conditions than Kim Kardashian has blackouts. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Kim Kardashian having blackouts? What does that mean, Joaquin? Do you mean like dating black men? It's like I'm not sure. Does she have blackouts? I don't know anything about that. So good dad moment. That's when I kiss my daughter bye. That's it's good. I didn't want to get up because I'm still wearing pajama pants. It was warm today. I was like, I don't want to put anything on that's hot. I'm going to sitting down. So it's like so let's see. So let's see what else. So remember, joke, simplify, right? It's like I have a video on YouTube called the genius is in the simplicity. And it's more of a lesson to me who tends to be too clever, right? And it's like, but if you simplify, and that one great thing about the analogy joke is you're taking two dissimilar ideas and you're telling the audience they're similar. So the audience is like, prove that for true. That's all they want, is to solve for true. They don't want anything else. And the tension gets high because we're like, that doesn't make any sense. The odds of that person making sense out of that are way down low. So the expectation drops, but the tension is still there. So if I say my ex-wife who's an alcoholic is a lot like an iPhone, the audience is going to go, huh? Prove it for true. And that's all they need you to do. And it's like, we try to be funny. And so we add all this shit, but we don't need to add all this shit. So if I do a list, everything iPhone, everything ex-wife alcoholic, right? And I say, my ex-wife was an alcoholic. She was a lot like an iPhone. And if I look at the iPhone, I see Signal on there. You see Wi-Fi. You see the mute button. You see the screen, the touch screen. You see icons. You see apps. Can you hear me now? Charge the phone. Battery's dead. All that stuff. But when we see Signal, if I break that down even further, how do we express what kind of signal we have? What do we say? 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars. Bars, alcoholic. Now I can write that joke. So I can say, like, my ex-wife who's an alcoholic is a lot like an iPhone. I could usually find her at least 1 bar. The audience is going to chuckle at least, because is it true for an iPhone? I could usually find it at least 1 bar. Yes. Is it true for the alcoholic? Probably, yes. And then I can add another thing. So I said, ex-wife's like an alcoholic. Or my ex-wife who's an alcoholic is a lot like an iPhone. I could usually find her at least 1 bar. And if I don't see her right away, I look closer because she probably fell on the floor. Same thing with an iPhone. Falls out of your pocket on the floor. How many people have forgotten their iPhone at a place like that and come back and fell on the floor? Right? So it's true for each iPhone and both iPhone and girlfriend at the same time. So if you could say the connecting line, the punchline, and make it true for each by themselves and both at the same time, that's a paradox. And again, what do we have with a paradox? Oh shit, how can that be true? But it is, right? And it's benign. It doesn't surprise, but it doesn't kill us. So we laugh. So that's the science, right? So Logic, who was in here just a second ago, I hope he didn't leave, but you're missing out the logic of comedy right there. That's why it works. So if you could work analogies all day long, right? And find the truth in there. Don't get lazy, get into you have to go deep to find that. So when I was doing the listing technique for the iPhone, I didn't find it right away. I had to continue to list. Then I go signal. How do I signal? 1 bar, 2 bars, a bar is shit. I didn't see that at first, but there it is hiding. And once you make that association, that's where the audience laughs. So you got to work that list. And think about it this way, how do I get better than all the other comics? You work the list, because 99.9% of them aren't, because they want to get to the fun part, which is the punchline. They don't want to go through the tediousness, what seems like tediousness. I used to think it was tedious when I first learned that technique. I don't want to do that. It's tedious. But then I want to get to the punchline. That's where the dopamine hit is. But if you hit that the tediousness, you realize going through that list, you make all these neat little discoveries along the way. Then you find the joy in the work there. And that's where the payoff is. It's like, oh shit, man, that's a good joke that nobody else is going to come up with because you did the work. So I think that's one of the keys. So, all right. So we have, let's see what else. I found out my navigation system's voice actually belongs to a successful model. She recently won a pageant and became misdirection. So it's like, you can even say that. So did you know, like the gal who voices Siri, she's actually, she's on your GPS. A gal who voices my GPS, actually, she's actually a model. She recently won misdirection. That's funny. I like that. Good one. That made me laugh. And it's what a coincidental tie-in. So coincidence is another reason we laugh. We laugh for coincidence, right? So if you have a coincidental tie-in, that's funny. That makes us laugh. Meeting, MEATING, meeting, Jesus Christ, LOL, meeting. I'm not sure what that is, what you're trying to say there, but I'm sure it's funny because it has a Jesus Christ laugh in there. I thought one of my favorite jokes with Jesus Christ was this Jewish kid. He wasn't doing well. Does the new comedy Bible by Judy Carter helpful? Judy is a really good marketer. Let me just put it that way. She can't write a joke to save her life. Let me be honest with you. I've taken some of Judy's courses way back in the day. I was like, she can't write a joke, right? She said, sometimes when I do corporates, I let the audience know that the punchline is there. I do this. I'm like, Judy, if you have to do ta-da to make sure the audience gets knows it's a joke, you got to rewrite the joke, right? You got to rewrite that punchline, right? So, but Judy is like, she does have some good ideas in there. Don't get me wrong. Like, what you hate about, what's weird about, that's a good prompter, right? So, and it's like, every book can be helpful, but if they're also teaching you bad habits, they could be detrimental, right? Because you get locked into those bad habits, right? So when's the last time Judy did something live on stage in front of an audience? I don't know. 30 years, right? I'm up all the time. And it's like I get to test the theories, right? And I see how they work and how they work in middle America, not just in LA, right? On Zooms and corporates and in churches sometimes with philanthropic groups, with corporate groups, with leaders, with executives, with regular people coming in just wanting to blow off steam at a club. So they want a little edge. So it's like, but that's something I would be very, very, skeptical about. Is like, when's the last time she's been up in a club, right? Like, she have any video out there of her performing, right? That's important to see too. So, but I've gotten some value out of her books, right? Like I said, that it's good prompter. What's weird about? What do I hate about? George Carlin said to me, take the shit that drives you crazy, make it funny. Just write it down. Once you have it down on the page, you can control it. Now you could look for three things: a reverse, and an assumption that you can shatter, two dissimilar ideas converging, or wordplay and balloons. What if we do this? Can we get some confetti? Confetti? No, it's balloons again. There it is. Confetti. Hooray. Like, anyway, so I'm a little skeptical when it comes to that. She likes to use the word hack. I don't like the word hack because it's not a premise is never hack. The punchline still being the same and done a million times, that can be hacked. But somebody coming up with a concept and coming up with a completely unique approach, that's not hack. That could be genius because we've heard the concept and we have to be able to relate to the concept. You watch Louis C.K., he's not doing any unique premises or unique concepts. We've heard a lot of the stuff he's talking about before, but he has a definitely original angle and original take. That's why that works, right? But if we can't relate to the subject matter, then it doesn't work. One of the things that really set me away off of Judy Carter was she actually had in her book, stop doing, a little something about me. Nobody wants to care about, nobody cares about you. And I was like, that's 100% bullshit. Because the one thing that the audience is looking for when you take the stage, the one thing is the answer to the dramatic question, who are you and why should I care? So that's whether it's true whether you're doing stand up or whether you're doing comedy. It's like the audience is curious. Who are you? Why should I care? What's your take? What are your experiences? What can I take away from that? Like if I say to the audience, I have 5 kids from 3 different moms, and I say, I just couldn't figure out relationships. You watch that audience sit up, they go, ooh, tell me more. I can't either. And I've been married 30 years, right? So then you start giving your take, and then they could maybe take some of those pieces and apply them towards their life. It's actually what's happening in real life, right? So when she says nobody cares about you, I mean, that's 100% bullshit. So can they relate to what you're going through? Can they mirror the underdog? Can they root for you? You don't have to make everything about you. You could also talk about things outside of you. Jerry Seinfeld, George Carlin, Robin Williams, they all talked about stuff outside of them. They didn't talk about themselves, right? So, and that's like observational, right? You can, looking at signs, talking about commercials. Jerry Seinfeld, sometimes there's one part where Jerry Seinfeld didn't know what was funny in the joke. And I was like, that helped me really understand that he doesn't even know why the joke is funny. It just got a laugh when he was doing it. The joke is, I saw a commercial and it said, our detergent gets bloodstains out of your dress shirts better than the leading detergent. And he said the joke was, if you've got bloodstains in your dress shirts, you got more stuff to worry about than laundry detergent. Funny joke. But then when he did, I'm telling you for the last time, that special, he changed the joke. He wanted to make the joke more efficient. So he removed the word dress from shirt. So he said, I saw a commercial on TV. It said, our detergent gets bloodstains out of your shirts better than the leading detergent. Well, if you got bloodstains in your shirts, you got more stuff to worry about than laundry detergent. Those of you who played sports or have had a nosebleed, you've gotten blood on your shirt, right? So you get hit in the face with a basketball, you're going to get a bloody nose. You play football, you're going to get an elbow, you're going to get a bloody nose. You play soccer, you certainly get a scrape, get some blood on your shirt. It happens all the time. Rugby, those guys always have bloody shirts. Hockey, right? So it's like dress shirt was the key. Because if you're wearing a dress shirt and you get blood on your shirt, you get blood on your dress shirt. Now you got something to worry about. That's what you're going to the office. You got blood on your shirt. So it's like, but he removed that word and that killed the joke. So it was like, wow, he doesn't know why it's funny. It's funny because it's a dress shirt, not just a shirt. There's a couple of things he did to make the joke more efficient, and he removed what made the joke work. So that happens. Sometimes we do that. I did that with a joke, right? I removed something. It was a joke about my wife's big boobs, right? She had big boobs. And then I said, my wife thought I was psychic when I first met her because I guessed her cup size. Yeah, she took off her shirt and I was like, whew, geez. Now, what I meant was G cup, but people don't immediately associate G with a cup size. So I had to rewrite the joke and reintroduce G cup. And then so basically she went to go get bra fitting done at Nordstrom. She came back and she didn't look happy. I said, you didn't find anything your size or anything? She didn't. I know I got 3 bras, but I'm not happy. I go, why aren't you happy? I just found out I'm a G cup. And I went, oh yeah, that's horrible. I'm a man. I'm thinking motorboat, right? But it made me think. She thought made me remember. Oh, that's why she thought I was psychic when I first met her, because I guessed her cup size. She took off her shirt, and I was like, "Ooh, geez." Now the joke works because the audience can associate G with cup. Does that make sense? So it was like when I took it out at first, they weren't making that association, and as soon as I put it back in, then the joke worked. So sometimes it's just one word, as we showed earlier. Sometimes one word can make it work. Rhythm is gonna get you. That's right, Lucas. It's like the rhythm is going to get you. So Gloria Stefan. I'm bad at asking girls out before. Okay, let's find out more. Mr. Yash, good one. Haha. I went to my room, messy. My room was messy. Dad would barge and said, "Hey, asshole, it's asshole deep to a giraffe in here." Americans will use anything but the metric system. I like that. Yeah. So it's like, I like this idea, but there's more there, I think, Lucas. Like, there's more there because it's like Americans, let's talk about them like it's chuckle funny, but it's not funny. The idea is they resist the metric system. And it's like they'll use anything but the metric system. You say centimeters, they go, "Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's like chemistry or something. I can't relate." Centimeter, what is that? Right? The kilometer, well, kilos, what is that? Kilograms, what is that? I get they have a block. They have a real block against the metric. Don't use anything but the metric system. Now do the act out of the dad. Like, my room was messing. My dad would say, "It's asshole deep to a giraffe in here." Like, it's like they'll use anything but the metric system. So set it up at the beginning, bookend it with that setting. I think then the audience will get it. Because once you say it, they're like, well, once you let us know you use anything but the metric system, they hate the metric system. It's not that hard to learn. It's not that hard to convert, but they don't want to use it. They're afraid of that, right? And centimeters, oh my God, I don't know what to do with that. They'll use anything but the metric system. Now you do the dad act out and then recap it with they'll use anything but the metric system. That'll make that joke work because that's a good joke. We just had to sort of like make sure you taught the audience something first, then do the act out demonstration of how they'll use anything but the metric system. And we've heard of dad saying stuff like that. So it's like that works. And I've never heard that particular one, asshole deep to a giraffe. That's funny. Basically, Theo Von is the 3 descriptors on forever. Yes, he loves to use 3 descriptors. So it's like, and if he was more educated, he would use them better, right? So, but Theo Von there's some things I like about Theo Von and some things I don't like about Theo Von. But overall, I like him. But if I overanalyze, I start to see the flaws in Theo Von. But we all have flaws, right? I'm no better than anybody else. So it's like, but the Theo Von definitely uses those. I'm back, probably gonna even fail this test, but somebody's got to write the jokes. Hey Jerry, a friend of mine was staying in a hotel where James Bond was staying at all night. She heard was Roger Moore. Okay, good. That's a good pun. On a way, you're gonna get grown on that one. So it's like, and you're gonna get nothing from the Gen Zers who don't remember Roger Moore. So it's like, be careful of that one. But you've tied it in. You James Bond. If you listed everything James Bond, what would she hear if Daniel Craig was in there? So who are the other the guys who played James Bond? We could maybe, what else could that be? I like that. So it's good. You're converging lots of different ideas like hotel, right? Vacation, and then 007, right? So a hotel, where was James Bond staying at in a hotel? What room? So he was on the ground floor, 007. So something like that could be fun too. Like you can then, list everything James Bond. It's like, I got my first open mic booked for next week. Oh, hooray. God, nice going, man. Been writing for a year and finally going to test it out. As a one-liner comedian, should I use any of my best lines? My first set to mix it up with ones I want to try. First time up there, go with confidence, go with your best, right? And the basically a page and a third of material at 12-point font Times New Roman with 1-inch margins is about 5 minutes, right? When you're going up your first time, if there's going to be some laughs there, it's an open mic, so don't be surprised if they're not. Don't laugh to look for the joke. Don't laugh after the joke to look for approval. Just keep a straight face. Just stay with the emotion that got you to the punchline. The instant that they see that you're new, that you're an amateur, they may, it may affect it. Or if you just get up there and tell them, my first time on stage. This is my very first time on stage, and in the next 5 minutes, you're going to find out just how true that is. They're going to laugh at that. Now, where's the expectation? Low. Now you do your jokes and you get good laughs. They didn't expect you to get good laughs. Now they're like, hey, wow, that was great, man. So that's and remember, don't laugh after each of your jokes unless it truly makes you laugh. Like if you laugh because the idea is funny, like Chappelle does. Sometimes a joke makes him laugh and he just laughs at the idea. So, but laughing to look for approval from the audience is a sure sign of a amateur. So it's like what are your thoughts of using a fake accent versus your real voice? Give it a shot. I have a whole alter ego that I do on stage sometimes. His name is Charlie Stone, and he's a stoner. He's an old surfer guy from high school, but he doesn't really do drugs. He just sounds like this all the time, bro. No way. Dude, I dropped out of college, man. I didn't, I took 2 years of anatomy. I still don't know shit about the stars. So if I do that character, I used to open for myself doing the character, 30 minutes doing the character. Then I'd come up as me and do an hour as me. And it was a lot of fun. And everybody wanted to meet Charlie Stone, which was interesting because it's like, because his character was so specific. So I would try that. It's a great experiment. And then maybe now you can introduce 1, 2, 3, 4 characters as part of your act, right? So, and sometimes practicing in a character voice with an accent gives you new angles for the punchline because you're actually channeling kind of a different point of view through your accent. So yeah, give it a shot. It's fun. And you watch Maria Bamford. She loves to use vocal dynamics, and she used polyvocality. She used dialects and accents. And she nails that. Watch her work. She's like a Robin Williams, but I think she doesn't just go to the dick joke like Robin used to do. She uses that technique. So I would watch her definitely. Trans man that confuses people. So I'm a trans man that confuses people. Let me break it down. When I'm hanging out with the boys, it's technically no longer a sausage fest. Where sausage fest, we're working with. It's more like a pigs in a blanket situation. Good, that's funny. I like that because what did you do? You started with a high stakes concept. I'm a trans man, and that's gonna. It's going to spark their amygdala. Warning. That means other people might get very sensitive right now. And so the tension is high. And then you make it very innocuous, kind of a silly, playful, ending there. A pigs in a blanket situation. That's funny. I like it. So yeah, good joke, Lucas. Jerry's book is great. Hey, thanks, Bob. Thanks for the pitch. Like, yeah. And it's one of those, like, the book is thick and so am I. That's good. But the book is one of those books you could come back to, right? So it's like a lot of people come back to it for reference and to reread it, and they get re-inspired and they write a new concept. Plus, you have the 13 major comedy structures mapped out. So you can go back and write jokes on all the structures. So it's really kind of fun to see that, to be able to apply that. Thanks for the pitch there, Bob. So you in Breaking Bad series, you were the lead role. Yeah. Say it. Say my name. Is that good? Is that pretty good? No? I need more lines on my face, I think. So that was good. Nice, Heisenberg. That was a funny way of saying it. You said it without saying it, which is comedic irony. Saying it without saying it is comedic irony. Good work. I like that. That's ridiculous. Bill Burr was a side character. That's funny. A laugh is a noise that comes up out of your mouth anywhere else, and you're in big trouble. Comes up out of your mouth. Comes from your stomach up out of your mouth. Anywhere else, and you're in big trouble. Nice. Good, Alan. Comedy afflicts the comfortable and comforts the afflicted. That almost sounds like something Mandy would say. So good, Lucas. But the problem is that not every benign violation is funny. That's right. Not every benign violation is funny, right? So it depends on how it's worded, right? So again, we'd have to get into specific examples. Talking in broad concepts is good, but when we narrow it down to show an example, that's when we can really have a takeaway and learn from it. So not every benign violation is funny, right? So if somebody and not everything is a benign violation. I'll give you an example. Like if my ex who cheated on me called me in Halloween, so automatically the audience thinks like, what is she calling for? Your ex who cheated on me. They're already rooting against her. And I said, my ex who cheated on me called me on Halloween. She said, Jerry, I don't know what to pretend to be for Halloween. I said, why don't you just dress normally and pretend to be in a committed relationship? So now it's a benign retaliation. So it's kind of a violation, but it doesn't hurt her, but it does make a point. And it does get her back for the pain she caused me, which is implied in my ex who cheated on me. So that's kind of how that works. Different ways to say somebody puts you in a position and you get them back, like a cop, saying something and then you say something back to the cop. Do you know how fast you were going? Well, do you think at that speed I'm going to risk taking my eyes off the road to check the speedometer? What are you, stupid? Right? So it's like so whenever you gain consciousness. So in that case, you play around with a benign violation. Puerto Rico is a floating pile of trash in the ocean isn't something that any broad audience accepts as true. It wasn't even clear that the rally audience liked it. Good point, Sam. There was a segment of the rally audience that laughed at it, right? But there was another segment that just came out of left field. He was just doing it because he thought that this is what the audience wants. But when you just come out of nowhere with no context, no build-up, no antagonist set up, it didn't play. Like if a guy picks on a man picks on a woman without reason or recourse, like we don't know enough about that woman hasn't done us wrong, then we're punching down. And the audience will pull back, right? So that was a good, the Puerto Rico floating pile of trash in the ocean. It's good. It's a good point. Broad audiences usually don't accept that. Some audiences do because they feel that person's the antagonist. For some reason, Hinchcliffe thought Puerto Rico was antagonist to this audience. And he thinks that because he's a racist, right? We've seen that come up a few times. He's got this weird thread of racism that comes up through him. And it's weird from the time he called his opening act the C word, who was Asian, right? So, and he didn't need to. It wasn't, he could have found a more clever way to make fun. So that's why Hinchcliffe is gross, and personally, I'm not a fan. I think he can write some really good roast jokes, but sometimes he's got to do the racist thing somewhere in there. He's got that thread that runs through him. So it really is, you're supposed to roast the people you love, not the people you despise. So I think that's where the complication comes in. That's the original magic of that joke. You're taking somebody you love and you're saying the worst shit about them. And that's the magic of that. There's some magic there. It's incongruous, right? Because you're not supposed to say mean things about the person you love, but you're doing it. And that's the nature of those jokes. But then when it got to the public, there's too many other people that don't understand the concepts. So when Hinchcliffe did that joke about Kevin Hart on a plane, he got in a fight on a plane, just shows that for a black man, no matter how much money you make, you're still going to be a ninja. I don't know if you saw that in that roast, but he was like, it's a fighting joke, which is funny in a roast situation. But for me, knowing that Hinchcliffe has that thread of racism that runs through him, I'm like, you got to stay away from that stuff, dude. Prove that you're funny without that. But he does write some good roast jokes other than that. He's a clever joke writer, but still his like weird vibe of punching down is funny bothers me. Just for the fact of punching down. Be edgy. Yes, you can be edgy, but don't be mean-spirited. That's the magic of comedy. It's like you keep it funny, you don't turn it into bar fight. We use recycled straws and utensils isn't something I wanted to hear at the urologist. Nice, Abe. Good. I recently started to tell my jokes faster and faster when I started to get tripped up on the words and I start cutting using simpler, fewer words. Slow down. You got to give the audience a chance to enjoy the setup and the punchline. So a lot of times if you talk too fast and you can still keep up the internal energy as you're trying to say the joke, but make sure the words are separated. Bill Burr has a lot of energy, but you can understand every word. If we miss a word, we could miss the joke, right? And it's like if we don't understand the word, it could short circuit the laugh, but you can still keep that internal energy up. So that's one. So if you cut too much, then it works. But being conscious of whether the words flow is a good idea. I like that, and make sure the audience is picking up on it, because they got to be able to process the thought, the setup, and making it establish some sort of commitment to it before they hit the punchline. I'm going to answer a few things, and then I'm going to wrap it up. We've been doing this for 2 hours and 30 minutes, and you want to get in even deeper with this stuff. By the way, I do have a weekend workshop coming up in Vegas on the 27th and 28th of June. Those workshops are always a lot of fun. You get immersed in comedy for 2 full days, 6 hours a day, and then you do an open mic on Saturday nights. It's a lot of fun. You really get to apply the stuff you learn. You'll write more jokes in that session than you probably have in the last 2 years. That's like guaranteed. Happens every single time we have these workshops. They're a lot of fun. You're mingling. You're creating community with like-minded people. You're feeding off each other. We even we do it like a writer's room. You're eating lunch, right? You're just having a great time. The link is actually in the description. If you want to check it out, come to the workshop, and I'll be offering a discount to anybody here at the live. It's 20% off. So just hit me up, and I'll give you the code for that. But I think you guys just committing, being here, working on your shit is a lot of fun. So if you're in Vegas, or if you can make it to Vegas for the 27th and 28th, be there. I do them once or twice a year, and so you'll walk away from there going, "Holy shit! I got a whole bunch of new ideas for writing jokes." When I get hungry, I eat vinyls. Funny. Let's see if there's a couple more I can answer, and then I'll have to get going here. Let's see. I asked a blind skydiver how he knew when to brace for landing. He answered, "When the leash goes limp." What does that mean? Oh, I got it. Guide dog. Holy shit! It took me a second. That works. That's good, man. Took me a moment. So it's so funny when you don't get the joke right away, and then you get it. Got it. Good work. Good, Jim. Or Marty. Did you hear about the blind hooker? You had to hand it to her. Good, Alan. Nice word. That's an old book joke, but take that and modify it. Becomes your own joke, right? Hello, Jerry and everyone. Hey, Trace. Good to see you. So good. Yeah, there's some good ones in the chat. You guys are getting very clever, right? Blind people who would probably order only one Coke at McDonald's, basically. That's the only visible stuff for them out there. Blind people would probably order only Coke at McDonald's. Basically, that's the only visible stuff. Not sure what you mean by that. Again, it's like I'm trying to get that joke. Jerry, what do you think about telling stories from your own life? Yes, absolutely. I did that a little earlier when I was talking about my ex-wife when she's having her C-section, having some gas pains. And remember, there's a lot of jokes in the he said, she said, or the he said this, I said this. It's the way you interpret. Telling the story about being at that comedy show and the guy heckling, and then you have a comeback, right? It's like, how do you take their words? My ex who cheated on me called me on Halloween, and said, "Jerry, what do you want to be? I don't know what to pretend to be for Halloween." True story. She actually said that. So in that case, I think that's good. Now you could also increase the stakes, and say a cop pulled you over and said something there, and the stakes are increased, or somebody did something wrong, and now you're going to get them back that way. So that could be a way to do that. So I love doing stories about my life or the stories surrounding my life. I have this whole rant I'm doing about I did certainly around the anniversary of the fires that we had here at the Pacific Palisades and the Eden Canyon fire. and was doing jokes about how people politicized that fire. So that story is from my life, and I could take each one of those lines and find the jokes in each line to punch it up, right? Tell the story first, and then go line by line and ask the 3 questions. Is there a wordplay in here? Are there 2 dissimilar ideas converging? Is there a setup? Is there an assumption I can shatter? And that's just the first 3 questions. And if you don't find those, then you look for the comedic irony. Then you look for a possible benign retaliation. You look for a mirrored, maybe I can insert a mirrored phrase to make something funny. So a lot of those stories are true. And it's a way of now turning them into jokes. Like, I remember the first time I told my dad I wanted to do comedy. He looked me right in the eyes and he said, "Do you really think you're going to make a living doing comedy?" And I looked him right in the eyes and I said, "Barely." Then I heard Brian Kiley did a joke about his father-in-law using a similar thing, so I dropped that joke, right? So it's like, but those things happen all the time, with write the story first, then look for the funny in there. Then the funny is in the structure, right? So, and it's like, remember, don't you're not writing the ridiculous. You're writing the embarrassment. You're writing your destination to a goal. And this embarrassing thing happened along the way. That's why pulled over by a cop jokes works. I was in the bank during the pandemic, which was kind of weird because like just 2 months ago, if I walked in the bank with a mask on, they were, "You can't come in here with a mask on. This is a bank." Then I'd be walking in without a mask on. They're like, "You can't come in here without a mask. This is a bank." I'm so confused. And so I went to my favorite teller, who's a bit of a gossip. And there was this guy in the window next to us, didn't have a mask. And she said to me, wanting to make sure that the other guy heard it, "Hi, Jerry. Thanks for wearing a mask. I'm surprised with all these people who aren't wearing masks, there haven't been more deaths." And I said, "I'm surprised with all these people who are wearing masks, there haven't been more bank robberies. So just put the money in the bag, no marked bills, no ink packs, and throw in some of that hand sanitizer." So in that joke, like that actually happened. And then I had to take it away and write the mirrored phrase. And that really was what made the joke work, is I repeated her words and then I changed the ending. And that turned it into a joke. So you see, and it's a matter of using the structure, adding the technique to make that work. So Lucas says, always write what you know. Writing personal stories is good, but don't be married to the truth. Always go for what's funny. Don't be married to the truth, but make sure it's plausible. If it's no longer plausible, the audience will fold their arms. So that's good. It's like you can write, stuff that's personal to you. You don't have to. You can talk about stuff that's outside of you too. Like I said, Carlin and Seinfeld avoided talking about themselves, and they did everything was observational. Do you hear the one about the gay Australian? The police were looking for him all over the place, and they found him in Sydney. Another book joke, but good, Alan. That's funny. GF and iPhone were both smashed. Which one was that from, Bob? Girlfriend and iPhone were both smashed. Oh yeah, that's good. Good. That's the iPhone. Ex-wife who's an iPhone. Ex-wife who's an alcoholic is a lot like an iPhone. Yeah, the girlfriend and the iPhone were both smashed. I remember having to go to Best Buy because my girlfriend and the iPhone were both smashed. Holy Christ, the Joke Doctor live? That's like Easter, but funny. Let's go. That's funny. I like that. It's like, now if I can only introduce a colored egg, maybe I'll just dye my head. McDonald's is offering blind taste test of the McRib. You want eyes with that? Oh, getting there, right? Try this. Like as an exercise I give to students, this actually came from a news story. A body of a 40-year-old woman was found in a processing plant for McDonald's restaurants. So the body of a 40-year-old woman found in a processing plant for McDonald's restaurants. So now in that, if you listed everything body of a 40-year-old woman, you're a body of a 40-year-old woman, you're going to come up with MILF, right? So you could say like McDonald's offering, body of a 40-year-old woman found in a processing plant for McDonald's restaurants. It's like now I can order which is great because now I can order the vanilla milkshake, right? So you can have fun with that, right? So that you're on the right track. Keep going with that. McDonald's is offering blind taste test of the McRib, a blind taste test of the McRib. It's like so I'm trying. It's like a blind taste test. It's like so it's like that's when they realized a blind taste test is all if you go to the literal, like you're actually blind, they blindfold you. It's like no, and that's how McDonald's got to their whole menu. They don't even have to give you real meat, right? They can because you're blind, you can't tell the difference. So having trouble meeting women, and that's a written joke, right? So meeting women, men go through the grinder faster. Then that's a written joke, right? Because it's the wordplay. If the audience, if you're telling this live, you can't see the word that you're using. So it's like so that's what you're almost doubling up on the joke. It's almost joking the joke. You're going to be careful with that because the audience is not sure what to laugh at. What am I laughing at? Grinder being a dating app, or meeting women going through the grinder? What do you mean going through the grinder? What is that? What do you mean by that? So you got a lot of stuff going on there, a lot of metaphor going on here, which makes the joke ambiguous. We don't exactly know what we're making fun of, and what the joke's target is, and what results we're looking for. So if we're ambiguous in the punchline, how do you think the audience's laugh is going to come across? Ambiguous, right? They're going to be like, okay, it sounded like it should be funny. We're not sure what to laugh at. So be very careful with that. Make sure you know what you're making fun of. Who are you making fun of? What are we making fun of? And what are you trying to say with that joke? Right. So, and a lot of times if you're just doing funny to do funny, that's where we get into trouble. If you're telling a story, you're trying to say something, and then the funny comes as a result of trying to get to a destination. That's where it is funnier, I think. But if you're just trying to do the funny, the audience kind of gets, he's trying to be a wacka wacka, So instead, like deliver it straight, and find out what am I trying to say with the joke. I've written 4 minutes of material and have ideas for 2 more tight 5-minute sets. Should I focus on polishing this one first? Work on all 3 alongside each other? Dude, I would do myself all 3. Because there's no reason why working on one exclusively is necessary, because working on one doesn't take you away from the other 2, right? So it's like I have multiple projects going on at the same time. And it's like, so if I'm writing a new book called the Black Joke Writing Secrets Black Book, I also have a screenplay I'm working on, and I'm constantly revising content for my courses and my students and helping them with their jokes. So it's like you don't have to work on one; you could work on multiple. But I would say give a little extra time to the one you're trying to really get that tight 5. Right. Make sure, so you get that tight 5, but it doesn't keep you from working on the other ones. What I did is I wrote an hour first. I didn't think I could go on stage without an hour, just because all the albums I listened to at the day of the comedy specials were an hour long. Right. So I thought I had to come up with an hour. I said, how am I going to do an hour? And my dad said, write 10 6-minute sets. And so I wrote 10 6-minute sets. So I didn't even think about writing a tight 5. I wrote 10 6-minute sets, and then I had 10 6-minute sets. So I had an hour of material. So then I would mix and match and punch up the jokes that were not getting the laughs I wanted, and lose the jokes that weren't working. So I think that was that's one of those things. Like I would just I'd work on all 3, because while you're working on those 3 sets, this idea you come up with on set number 3 could actually be applied to idea 1, right, in the first set, and you could punch it. Maybe it helps you to punch up in a joke that's in the first set. So yeah, I'd do all 3. Unfortunately, my grandmother's eyesight is going. Her field of vision is like a Big Mac. Every year it gets smaller and smaller. That's good. Nice second idea. A field of vision is like a Big Mac. Every year it gets smaller and smaller. That's great. That's a good joke. It seems that way, doesn't it? Seems true for each and both at the same time. Drive-through makes sense because I'd only drive into a McDonald's if I were blind. Nice, Sergio. That's good. I've written 4 minutes. Okay, let's see. Work on all. Yeah, that's good piece of advice. There. Set up for the joke about my dad works better. Thank you. First open mic goes second best joke. Second best joke opener, best joke closer. Meh, jokes in between. Yes, a good suggestion. Like open with your tried and true, end with your tried and true. Put the new ones in the middle, right? And so you can always open strong and end strong. That's a Jay Leno advice that I got back in the day, and it's a great technique to use. Sometimes I open with a brand new joke these days because odds are when I write it, I know it's going to be funny. High odds, right? There's always that joke you think is going to be funny and it flatlines, but you could always figure it out later. Odds are, if you think a joke is funny, it is. It just needs to be presented to the audience in the way that you hear it in your head, right? So it's like a lot of times we'll have some information we forget to share, like dress shirt. We gave you that idea from the Seinfeld bit, and because he says shirt instead of dress shirt, it didn't make as much sense. Always practice, write on something. That is practice which is not written yet. Nobody can. Or learn how to write. That would work. Maybe you got thumbs and maybe you're on your phone, right? So it's like always practice to write something which is unique, right? Maybe that's what he's saying there. Unique. It's good shorthand for unique, which is not written yet. Nobody can do it. Nobody can copy it, right? Show you how to do it. Like what I would do is like, one way to learn is what's called potchkeying a joke. And it's not something that I started with, but it was something that was taught to me. And it was like, when you're first learning, take some of your favorite jokes, and dabble in them, rewrite them till it's no longer that joke. And it's like, for example, the joke I did about me, which was when I first told my dad I was doing comedy, he looked me right in the eyes and said, "Do you really think you're going to make money doing stand-up comedy?" And I looked him right in the eyes and I said, "Barely." Right. So that's one joke. So then Brian Kiley did a joke. He said, I've been married 19 years, still that tension between her father and me. It's like he's always giving me a look like, I know you're having sex with my daughter. And I'm always giving him a look like, barely. Right. So then Anthony Jeselnik does a joke. Sam, my girlfriend's her dad's place over the holidays. He won't let us sleep in the same room. He's always giving me a look like, I don't trust you, pal. I'm giving him a look like, trust me, pal. I'm fucking your daughter. So 3 same techniques for the joke. And it's just using a mirrored phrase. He's giving me a look like, I'm giving him a look like. And each time you repeat that phrase, the audience expects the same ending, but it's switched. So Kylie says barely, self-deprecating. Jeselnik does the Jeselnik take, which is, in your face sort of thing. I'm fucking your daughter, right? Dangerous, friction. But he gave me a look like, I gave him a look like. Same technique. So you can actually take a joke that's been written, or in this case, I don't know if that was done with any of those guys. I know my joke I just wrote wrote it 35 years ago when I first started comedy, right? So it was a true story, but I just kind of added he looked me right in the eyes. I looked him right in the eyes. So then you could go further with that and do jokes in a different way. But it's like take a joke. Once you do that, you start potchkeying the jokes. You learn a lot about structure, what works, and how to write it. So it's not for you to duplicate other jokes, but to learn what techniques work, right? And then apply your own voice, just like musicians do cover tunes, and then they wind up learning from that and finding their own voice that way. I don't understand why why I don't find you super funny, even though you know the signs of comedy, but I would laugh like crazy on the other vid creators on YouTube. Probably because I'm defining this from a scientific point of view, and I'm not looking to be funny. I'm looking to teach, right? So it's like you have never seen my act, probably, and probably I don't do it for you. because anybody who uses all caps on their name is probably not funny. I'm kidding. Joke. See, that was funny. Everybody else is laughing, right? So in that case, there's like not everybody's for everybody, right? Some people look at Hinchcliffe, don't think it's funny. Some people think he's hilarious. Some people think Jimmy Kimmel's funny. Other people don't like him at all. So it's like, it's like everybody's not for everybody. So it's like I'm not doing jokes. I'm doing like and I might not be your thing, but it's like so that's just simple, right? So I'm not doing stand up right now. I'm teaching, and it's a different vibe, right? So it's like so it's magic plus science. Yeah, it is a lot of magic in there. Sure, definitely. Like you want to write a joke, you go to the ending first. Like it's like if I want to, if I write a joke and I say, okay, I want to make the audience think I'm talking about a man, and in the end I'm talking about a woman, right? I could be like, I could say like, I was at the gym the other day. Somebody gets on a machine right after me, raises the weight like 75 pounds, knocks out 12 reps like it's nothing. Now, normally that wouldn't bother me, but that chick was pregnant. So in that case, you make the audience think you're talking about a man, you shatter it, and you make it a woman. So that's one way to tell the joke. Like you could take a joke and make people think that you own the house, but in the end you rent the house. Like for example, in my neighborhood, real estate was going crazy last summer or 2 summers ago. Like the guy across the street, Dave, listed his house at 1.5 million. In less than 3 weeks, sold it for almost $3 million. That's how aggressive the counter offers were. So it was driving up the costs, and realtors were getting all hyper. They really were getting aggressive to get listings. So this realtor kept saying to me, Jerry, I'll do anything if you list this house with me. Jerry, I'll do anything if you list this house with me. Now, she was kind of hot, 40 something, sexy. And she said, Jerry, I'll do anything if you list this house with me. And I said, what do you mean, Sharon? You'll do anything? She goes, I'll have sex with you. And so, so we had sex. And right before I signed on the dotted line, I said, Sharon, there's something you should know about this house. And she said, what, it's haunted? I said, no, I rent it. So there we make the audience believe that we own the house, and instead we rent the house. See, she should have done her background. She would have known. I should have done my background too, because now I have chlamydia. So in that case, you can see how you could take and create those surprises with the jokes. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So I wish I had the cash to do the weekend session in Vegas, but I'm a teacher between teaching gigs. Yeah, it's summertime, right? So once I find my footing, I'll plan on, we'll see you. We'll see you in that one-on-one later when you can, Lucas. And by the way, just keep jumping in these lives, man. You're doing well with that. Let's see. Coke is all dark. Oh, I get it. Got it. Yeah, totally makes sense, dude. Now I get it. Trey says, thanks, Jerry. Thanks as always. So every child deserves a loving home. Sounds like something Epstein would say. So it's like, that's funny. Like, how could you tell you're on Epstein Island? The welcome mat says every child deserves a loving home. So that could be a way to deliver that too. Nice one. I like that. So thanks, Bob. Good to have you here. I got to jump off. So if the science is funny isn't funny, the dude who founded The Onion said that. Yeah, you're right. The science of funny isn't the funny, right? And if you tell people you're teaching them to make them laugh, where's the expectation? Way up here. So if you tell people you're telling a serious story, the expectation drops, and that's what creates the surprise. But if you're on there, that's one of the biggest dilemmas with teaching comedy structure. Is people, oh, this guy thinks he's going to teach me to be funny. No, that's up to you. I can only teach you the science behind it and the structures that make that happen. Your persona, how you set up your appearance, how you set up your approach to the comedy, and the personality. Are we rooting for you? Do we care about you? Are you an asshole? And it's like, if you're an asshole, how do you think the audience is going to respond to you? Right? It's probably not going to be vulnerable and give you their laughter. So all those things are involved. There's a lot of science involved in that. So, and that's one of the difficult things about saying, I'm going to teach you how to make a joke funny. You've already set the expectation up there, and your brain will more naturally resist that idea. So that's kind of the difficult journey of doing that. You have to suspend that whole disbelief, and it's like me, because everybody is like, taste is going to be different. So if I say that I'm going to make you laugh, they're going to go, you don't know me. So that could be, that's definitely going to have an effect, right? So if I go to if I'm down in Provo, Utah, and I don't know their disposition, the moment I say, God damn it, or hell, they fold their arms. They are not laughing at a damn thing for the rest of the hour, right? So it's like, doesn't matter how good the jokes are, they're just not going to laugh because you've offended them. You know, trust me, I've experienced that situation. But let's see. And it's like when somebody says that, you don't make me laugh, that's fine. You know, that's okay. You didn't buy my house, right? So that's the thing. So it's like one person, that's fine. You know, there's 345 million people in the United States. So it's like you don't have to worry about one person. You know, there's going to be people in your audience that don't find it funny, and don't be afraid to walk them, right? Because they're just not for you. It's just like chicks or dudes or dating. Somebody's not going to be for you, and that's okay, right? So so if we go through again, we're going to look at one more, and then I'm going to get going. So any thoughts on Funny AF? Hosted, yeah, you know, I got to watch that. I've heard some good reviews on that. I've heard it's a lot of fun. So I want to see, I want to go watch that. I like Tom Segura. So it's like, you know, I know Kevin Hart can be a hustler, and sometimes he hustles for the hustle, right? And it's not always the best quality. Like he wasn't the best roaster in the Kevin Hart roast. So there's a lot of funnier guys out there, but Kevin Hart's funny. I like Kevin Hart. And it's like, and I've heard some good things. I want to watch that. I got to watch the Tony Hinchcliffe thing because I've heard mixed reviews about it. But I'm going to watch that Funny AF. I've heard some fun things about it. And it's like Last Comic Standing. It's giving people a platform to get exposure. And let's face it, there's less and less places. The late shows aren't doing it like they used to. Like, remember, you used to be on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and you were made if you got to sit down at the desk, right? And so you were made. But now everything's so scattered. Hinchcliffe is giving people some vehicles with that, with Kill Tony, where they're getting some exposure there. Certainly, Sir Winston Pickles got famous through that. He's now got so many bookings because of that. And now the same thing with you know, Kevin Hart's Funny AF. So I'll check that out and see how that goes. I'm going to take off. Thanks for being here, everybody. You can teach the math, but the math doesn't make your students engineers. That's right. They got to do the work, right? Nice ending note right there, guys. Nice, Lucas. We'll see you later. Sir, last query. Plastic comb is best or wooden one? That's funny, man. It's like, I get it. It's like, say my name. Say my name. All right. See you guys later. Nice spending time with you. Have a great day.